For millennia, humanity has gazed upon the ancient world, captivated by its wonders and haunted by its secrets. Monolithic structures, lost civilizations, and inexplicable artifacts lie buried beneath the sands of time, as if mocking our attempts to understand them. How did ancient peoples build such unimaginable feats? What truths are hidden within the ruins of forgotten empires? In the next 3 hours, we'll journey through history's most bizarre and unexplainable archaeological mysteries, daring to uncover the answers to questions that have eluded mankind for centuries. Ready to step into the unknown? The search begins now. Nestled in the rolling hills of the English countryside, just a short distance from the iconic stone circle of Avebury, stands a monument older than written history itself, West Kennet Long Barrow. A structure of immense age and mystery, it is one of the finest surviving examples of a Neolithic burial tomb. The barrow, constructed around 3650 BC, is a long earthen mound stretching over 100 feet in length. Hidden beneath this seemingly serene landscape lies an enigmatic portal into the past, a place where the dead were honored, or perhaps where something more profound took place. As the sun sets behind the hills, casting long shadows over the ancient site, one can almost feel the weight of the centuries pressing in. The barrow is aligned with the solstices, its entrance pointing toward the setting sun on the shortest day of the year, an intentional design that suggests the importance of celestial movements to those who built it. But why such meticulous care in the construction of this tomb? Why, in an age where survival was a daily struggle, devote so much effort to honoring the dead? Inside, the atmosphere changes. The long passageway, lined with large, weathered stones, leads to a series of chambers where human remains were once placed. Archaeologists have uncovered bones, skulls, and fragments that tell a story of ritual and belief, but not one we fully understand. The tomb was used not just by one family or one generation, but by many over the centuries. Evidence of cremation, the careful placement of bones, and even the occasional offering left behind suggest that West Kennet Long Barrow was more than a simple burial site. It may have been a center for some kind of ritualistic activity, perhaps linked to ancestor worship or the transition between life and death. Yet, much of what took place here remains speculative. Mainstream archaeology points to the structure as a communal burial site, an integral part of the early Neolithic people's understanding of death. The barrow was built at a time when people were shifting from a nomadic lifestyle to settled farming communities, a transition that brought new ideas about land, ownership, and the afterlife. It was common for ancient people to bury their dead in tombs such as this, in the belief that the dead would return to the earth, becoming part of the landscape itself. But beyond these accepted facts, there are whispers of deeper mysteries. The barrow, after all, is not just a tomb, it is a threshold. Some have suggested that the design of the site mirrors the shape of a womb, a passage between life and death, implying that it may have been a site of rebirth as much as of burial. Could it have been a location for fertility rituals, or even initiation ceremonies that transcended the simple act of laying the dead to rest? The position of the stones, the alignment with the solstice, the mysterious objects found within, could these be clues to something even older, something not yet fully understood? There are theories, too, that suggest the barrow might have been used for other, less conventional purposes. Some have proposed that the site may have had astronomical significance beyond the basic solstice alignment, perhaps related to the movement of stars or planets in ways we no longer understand. Could the barrow have been a cosmic observatory, its builders using it to mark events on a celestial scale that was lost to time? Others wonder if West Kennet Long Barrow was the site of more esoteric rituals, ones connected to spiritual practices that bridged the human and the divine. Could it be that the ancients saw the barrow as a portal, A gateway to another realm? Even more speculative is the suggestion that West Kennet Long Barrow may be linked to the ancient knowledge that shaped early human civilization. Was it simply a burial site, or could it have been a place of learning, a center of sacred knowledge passed down through generations? The sheer scale of the effort involved in constructing such a site suggests a purpose far greater than mere burial. Today, the barrow stands silent. The stones, worn by centuries of wind and rain, seem to hold the secrets of a long-forgotten time, whispering only to those who listen closely. And while much has been uncovered through careful study, much remains hidden. Questions still linger. What was the true purpose of this ancient monument? What rites were performed here, and what knowledge might have been passed through the generations? The mystery of West Kennet Long Barrow is far from solved. Perhaps, in time, we will uncover more. Or perhaps, like so many other ancient sites, its secrets will remain locked in the earth, waiting for a future generation to reveal what was once known. For now, we can only wonder what lies beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. As we continue our journey through the depths of humanity's most perplexing archaeological mysteries, we now find ourselves thousands of miles away, at a site steeped in both grandeur and enigma. In the dry, sun-baked deserts of northern Peru, hidden beneath centuries of dust and time, lies the sprawling city of Chan Chan, the capital of the ancient Chimu civilization. This massive urban center, covering over 20 square kilometers, is a testament to the ingenuity and complexity of a society that thrived long before the rise of the Inca Empire. But while its outer walls, towering structures, and expansive compounds suggest a society of great organization and wealth, the true story of Chan Chan's inner workings and its ultimate downfall remains shrouded in mystery. The most intriguing of all its elements are the inner compounds, intricate, enclosed spaces at the heart of the city, some of which are still buried beneath layers of sand. These compounds, once thought to be royal palaces or temples, reveal an extraordinary blend of architectural sophistication and cultural symbolism. They are defined by their high, thick adobe walls, which curve gently like the form of an animal or a wave. These walls, now weathered but still imposing, once supported detailed murals depicting marine life, geometric patterns, and mythological motifs. Some walls still retain traces of their original pigments, offering a glimpse into a vibrant culture that has long since faded. Yet, as much as we know about the aesthetic splendor of these compounds, much remains unknown about their true purpose. The mainstream interpretation suggests that these structures were built for religious, administrative, or elite residential functions. Inside, archaeologists have uncovered ceremonial artifacts, pottery, and the remains of elaborate rituals, which point to the idea that these spaces were centers of political and spiritual power. But this explanation, while plausible, hardly begins to explain the more enigmatic elements that have surfaced from the depths of Chan Chan. Perhaps most perplexing are the hundreds of human remains found in the inner compounds. These are not the ordinary burials one might expect from a society so clearly concerned with ancestor worship and the afterlife. Instead, many of the bodies seem to have been arranged in ways that suggest a more ceremonial, possibly sacrificial purpose. Some of these remains were found near the walls, positioned in carefully constructed patterns, suggesting a deliberate ritualistic practice, one that might have been tied to both political power and spiritual belief. Who were these individuals? Were they sacrifices to the gods, or did they serve as symbolic representations of the Chimu's dominion over death and the afterlife? Adding to the intrigue is the mysterious connection between the inner compounds and the surrounding desert landscape. Chan Chan was built in a region known for its extreme aridity, and yet water is a recurring theme in the city's design. Each of the compounds seems to be oriented in such a way as to control or direct the flow of water, both in practical and symbolic terms. The city is dotted with irrigation channels, water storage systems, and large reservoirs, reminders of the Chimu's advanced understanding of water management. But why such a strong emphasis on water in a place where it was so scarce? Could the inner compounds have had a ritual significance tied to water, perhaps as a symbol of life, fertility, or divine favor? And then there are the unusual artifacts, mysterious, abstract objects that have no clear counterpart in other ancient cultures. Some researchers have speculated that these objects, often made of precious metals or carved stone, were more than just ceremonial tools. Could they have been instruments of power, connected to ancient technologies that have been lost to history? Were the Chimu capable of a level of craftsmanship or understanding that we still struggle to comprehend? Could the symbolic art, the water systems, and even the burial practices be pointing to something far more complex and sophisticated than we currently realize? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all, however, is the sudden and unexplained collapse of the Chimu civilization itself. Despite its impressive achievements, Chan Chan was abandoned by the late 15th century, soon after the Chimu were conquered by the Inca. But what caused the downfall of such a powerful and advanced society? Was it the result of warfare, environmental collapse, or internal strife? Some archaeologists suggest that the rapid expansion of the Inca Empire played a pivotal role, bringing with it new forms of social and political organization that disrupted the delicate balance of Chimu society. But others wonder if the Chimu were undone by forces more mysterious. Perhaps the very rituals that once gave them strength now turned against them. Could the complex web of beliefs, sacrifices, and power struggles within the inner compounds have contributed to their downfall? Intriguingly, there are some fringe theories that suggest the Chimu may have had knowledge or practices that have long been lost to time, knowledge that could explain their advanced construction techniques, their intricate water systems, and their mysterious rituals. Could the inner compounds have been the site of such knowledge? A place where esoteric teachings were passed down from generation to generation, only to be swallowed by the sands of history? Or is it possible that the Chimu, like many other ancient civilizations, possessed a deeper understanding of the natural world that we have yet to uncover? The answers to these questions remain elusive. While archaeology has uncovered much about the Chimu and their remarkable city, Chan Chan still holds many secrets. What was the true purpose of the inner compounds? What did they represent to the people who built them? And what knowledge or practices may have been lost when the city was abandoned? As we look at the remains of this once great civilization, it is clear that there is still much we do not understand. The walls of Chan Chan, though worn by time, continue to stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten past, their stories waiting to be uncovered. But for now, the mystery of the Chimu and the enigma of the inner compounds remains unsolved. What lies hidden beneath the dust of centuries? Only time will tell. As we leave the sun-scorched ruins of Chan Chan behind, our journey takes us to a far different place, where towering cliffs meet the sea and ancient tombs are carved directly into the rock. Welcome to the Lycian rock tombs, a breathtaking archaeological site tucked into the rugged landscape of southwestern Turkey. The tombs, which date back to the 5th century BC, are a testament to the artistry and spiritual beliefs of the Lycian people, an ancient civilization whose influence and traditions still echo through the corridors of time. Carved high into the cliffs above the ancient city of Myra, these rock tombs rise like silent sentinels, their intricate facades blending seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Some of these tombs are so expertly chiseled that they appear almost like miniature temples, with ornate columns, elaborate doorways, and steep, symmetrical roofs that mimic the architecture of the era. The most striking feature of these tombs is their location, often perched hundreds of feet above the valley floor, seemingly designed to be seen by the gods themselves. Why place the dead so high, in locations so difficult to access? Was it to ensure the souls of the departed reached their divine destination? Or was it a symbol of power and prestige, a final statement about the status of those interred? The tombs themselves offer a glimpse into the rich cultural fabric of the Lycian people. Each tomb is a carefully crafted monument, designed not only to honor the deceased, but to reflect their social standing in life. Many tombs are adorned with elaborate carvings, depicting scenes from daily life, mythical creatures, and figures from the ancient pantheon of gods and goddesses. The craftsmanship on these tombs is astonishing. Every detail, from the fluted columns to the ornate pediments, seems to reflect a deep understanding of both art and the afterlife. Yet, the true meaning behind these carvings, particularly the more fantastical elements, remains elusive. Were these symbols tied to specific religious beliefs, or did they represent personal stories, myths, dreams, or even personal quests for immortality? Some of the tombs have been looted over the centuries, but others have yielded incredible treasures. Jewelry, pottery, and weapons have been discovered within, suggesting that the Lycian elite believed in an afterlife that mirrored their life on Earth, a place where wealth, power, and status would carry on. The discovery of a particularly lavish tomb, known as the King's Tomb, revealed intricate gold pieces and elaborate frescoes depicting scenes of royalty and divine favor. It is easy to imagine that the dead were believed to continue their existence in the afterlife, their spirits accompanied by their wealth and status. But was this all they needed to ensure a peaceful passage? Were these offerings of gold and riches a safeguard, or did they hold a deeper, more spiritual significance? Despite the impressive physical evidence of the Lycian people's cultural and religious practices, there remains much that is unknown. Mainstream archaeology suggests that the Lycian rock tombs served as final resting places for rulers and nobles, reflecting the significance of social hierarchy in the ancient Lycian society. Yet, there is little consensus on the exact rituals that took place within these tombs. Were they simply burial sites, or were they locations for complex ceremonies designed to help the deceased transcend into another world? Was there a direct connection between the tomb's design and the religious practices of the time, or were these tombs something more, a bridge between worlds, constructed to ensure a lasting legacy that would never be forgotten? Then, there is the mystery of the tomb's placement. The tombs are often found in areas that were, and still are, difficult to reach. High on cliffs and nestled deep within caves, they seem almost inaccessible to anyone but the most determined of travelers. Why build them in such challenging locations? Some researchers believe the tombs were designed to be seen from afar, to emphasize the importance of the deceased and their connection to the divine. Others have suggested that the tombs were placed in high, remote locations as a way to protect them from grave robbers. But could there be another reason altogether? Could these tombs have been aligned with celestial events, perhaps marking certain astronomical positions or serving as observatories? The fact that the Lycians had an advanced understanding of the stars, evidenced by their alignment with other major archaeological sites in the region, suggests that the tombs may have had an astronomical or even cosmological purpose. Moreover, the Lycian people's deep connection with the underworld raises intriguing questions about their spiritual beliefs. The fact that many of the tombs are not only elaborate but seemingly designed to evoke a sense of grandeur and permanence points to a culture that saw death as a significant, almost transformative event. Were these tombs portals, designed to guide the souls of the deceased to another realm? And if so, did the architectural style of these tombs reflect the Lycians' belief that the afterlife was a continuation of life, a place where the spirit would dwell in harmony with gods and ancestors? One of the most compelling mysteries of the Lycian rock tombs is the absence of definitive records about the civilization itself. The Lycians did not leave behind written texts or detailed inscriptions that would shed light on their rituals, beliefs, or history. What we know of them comes primarily from the tombs themselves, and from the accounts of travelers and historians who encountered their ruins long after the Lycian people had faded from history. What happened to the Lycians? Why did such a powerful, sophisticated society vanish without a trace? Did they simply succumb to the changing tides of history, or did something more catastrophic occur? As the centuries pass, the Lycian rock tombs continue to stand tall against the forces of time and nature, their facades carved into the rock like silent witnesses to a lost world. The mystery of the Lycians, and their connection to the divine and the afterlife, remains unresolved. What drove these ancient people to create such intricate, awe-inspiring tombs? Was it a belief in immortality, or a desire to leave a lasting legacy that would transcend time itself? As we stand before these timeless structures, we can only wonder, what secrets remain hidden in their shadow, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to listen to the whispers of the past? As we leave behind the ancient tombs of the Lycians, we now journey to the northern reaches of ancient Palestine, where the land itself holds a secret hidden beneath layers of earth and history. Here, nestled in the lush green hills near the foot of Mount Hermon, lies one of the most fascinating and mysterious archaeological sites in the region. Tel Dan, a place of quiet beauty, where the hum of modern life contrasts sharply with the echoes of a distant past. Tel Dan is home to some of the most remarkable and unexplained remnants of an ancient city, massive stone ramparts that have stood the test of time. The site is marked by a series of towering monumental walls, stone ramparts that rise up from the ground like a forgotten fortress. These walls, constructed with colossal stones, some weighing several tons each, seem to defy the capabilities of the people who built them. The craftsmanship is awe-inspiring. Each stone fits perfectly into its place, with no mortar used to bind them, creating an almost seamless structure that has survived for thousands of years. But what is even more puzzling is the sheer scale and complexity of these ramparts. Stretching across the site, they seem to encircle the city, enclosing an area that was once a bustling center of trade and culture. The mainstream explanation suggests that these walls were built as a form of defense, a protection against invading forces. The region, after all, has been the site of numerous conflicts throughout history, and Tel Dan would have needed such fortifications to safeguard its inhabitants. But even this explanation raises questions. How did the builders, who lived around 1300 BC, manage to cut and transport these massive stones without the advanced technology we associate with later civilizations? The scale of the project seems to point to a level of organization and engineering that surpasses what we expect from the time period. Could there have been methods or knowledge lost to history that allowed these ancient builders to accomplish such feats? The ramparts themselves tell a story of a civilization that was both powerful and deeply invested in protecting its way of life. The city of Tel Dan was strategically located at the crossroads of important trade routes, and the presence of these walls suggests that its inhabitants were keenly aware of the value of their position. Yet, despite the defensive nature of the site, something else about these walls feels almost ceremonial, an attempt to demonstrate not just strength, but identity. The size, the symmetry, and the placement of the stones give the ramparts an imposing presence, as if they were not only designed to protect, but to declare something about the people who built them. But the true mystery of Tel Dan's ramparts is not simply their construction, but the peculiarities surrounding their origin and purpose. While the walls are clearly ancient, the history of Tel Dan itself is more ambiguous. The city is mentioned in the Bible as a place of great significance, but the details of its history remain elusive. Archaeological evidence suggests that Tel Dan was a thriving city during the time of the ancient Israelites. But what role did it play in the broader context of the region? Some scholars speculate that the city may have served as a center of religious significance, particularly given the discovery of altars and idols within the site. Were these ramparts constructed solely for defense, or could they have had a deeper symbolic purpose, perhaps as a monument to a god or a ruler, built not just for protection, but for the affirmation of divine power? Equally perplexing is the discovery of the so-called Dan inscription, a fragment of a stone slab that contains one of the earliest known references to the House of David. This discovery, while fascinating, has only deepened the mystery of Tel Dan. What does the inscription truly tell us about the political landscape of the time? Was Tel Dan a seat of power, a rival to other ancient kingdoms in the region, or did it serve a more specialized role? Was it a place where rulers were crowned and spiritual practices carried out, or did the city's ramparts protect something far more sacred, knowledge, secrets, or even rituals that remain hidden to this day? Adding to the intrigue, there is the question of why the site of Tel Dan appears to have been abandoned at some point, despite the incredible fortifications and the apparent wealth of the city. The remains of the ramparts and the city suggest that it was once a vibrant, thriving place, yet it seems to have fallen into ruin by the time the neighboring kingdom of Israel came into full prominence. What caused the inhabitants to leave? Was it the result of natural disaster, an invasion, or perhaps internal strife? Or is it possible that the city was intentionally abandoned, its ramparts left behind as a silent testament to a lost civilization? Some researchers have suggested that the fortifications may have been designed to protect not just the people of Tel Dan, but something far more significant, something that might have been hidden within the walls. Could there have been a treasure, an artifact, or a knowledge that the builders of these ramparts were attempting to safeguard, something that was perhaps lost during the city's eventual decline? Could the city's significance be tied to a mysterious religious or political power that faded over time, leaving only the stones behind as evidence of a civilization's once mighty influence? The sheer scale of the ramparts also invites speculation about the nature of the people who built them. Who were they, and where did they come from? Were they part of the larger ancient Israelite kingdoms, or were they connected to an entirely different culture or people group, perhaps one that predated the Israelites in the region? The complexity of the site suggests a deep cultural heritage, yet the identities of the builders remain a mystery. Could the ramparts have been constructed by a people who were not only skilled in architecture and warfare, but also steeped in an esoteric knowledge that we have yet to fully uncover? The mysteries of Tel Dan's massive stone ramparts remain unsolved. What was the true purpose of these awe-inspiring walls? Were they simply defensive, or did they serve a deeper symbolic role in the culture that built them? And what secrets might still lie hidden within the stones of this ancient city, waiting to be uncovered by those with the patience to search for them? Like many other ancient sites, Tel Dan challenges our understanding of the past, offering more questions than answers, and leaving us to wonder what remains hidden, waiting to be revealed in the quiet ruins of this ancient fortress. As we leave behind the stone ramparts of Tel Dan, we turn our gaze westward, toward the rugged landscapes of the Canary Islands, where another ancient mystery awaits, one that has intrigued archaeologists and historians for centuries. Nestled in the hills of Gran Canaria, beneath the shadow of towering cliffs and verdant valleys, lies a site so enigmatic that even today its purpose remains uncertain: the Valerón Caves. The caves are a collection of over 300 man-made niches carved into a steep rock face, their entranceways and alcoves seemingly placed with an intent known only to the ancient inhabitants of the island. The site, believed to date back to the first millennium BC, was once a thriving center for the indigenous Canarian people, the Guanches, who left behind no written records, but whose presence is still felt in the silent stone structures that remain. The caves themselves are a marvel of ancient craftsmanship, with each niche carefully hollowed out from the soft volcanic rock, creating a labyrinth of interconnected spaces. The purpose of these niches, however, remains a subject of intense debate. At first glance, the Valerón Caves might appear as nothing more than a cluster of rudimentary storage spaces, places where grain, tools, or even sacred objects might have been kept. And in some respects, this seems like a plausible explanation. After all, the Canarians were known for their agricultural practices, and the cave's strategic positioning high up on the rock face would have offered a measure of protection from thieves or wild animals. Yet, when you look closer, you begin to sense that there may be something more to the story, something deeper, perhaps, than mere practicality. The niches are not all of the same size. Some are small and shallow, while others are deep and wide enough to suggest they could have served a more ceremonial purpose. The positioning of the niches, too, is curious. The caves are arranged in a way that seems intentional, suggesting a deliberate design that goes beyond simple storage. The Guanches were known to be deeply spiritual, with beliefs rooted in the worship of nature and ancestral spirits. Could these caves have been used for religious or ritual purposes? Were the niches a way to store sacred offerings or relics, perhaps as part of some long-forgotten ceremony? Adding to the mystery is the lack of any clear evidence of the caves being used for residential purposes. Unlike many other ancient cave sites, where archaeologists have uncovered signs of habitation, tools, pottery, or bones, Valerón appears to have been a place where little more than the occasional offering was left behind. Could it be that this site had a more specialized role in the spiritual or political life of the Guanches? Was it a place where the living came to commune with the dead, or to seek guidance from the spirits of their ancestors? What is most perplexing, however, is the sheer scale and complexity of the site. While it's true that the Guanches were skilled builders and artisans, the meticulous construction of the Valerón Caves seems to suggest that these people were capable of a level of planning and organization that we might not expect from a relatively small, isolated culture. How did the Guanches manage to carve so many niches, each with its own specific dimensions, and arrange them in such a way that they formed a cohesive and functional whole? Could there have been a hidden knowledge, perhaps passed down through generations, that enabled the construction of such a site? Some researchers have speculated that the Valerón Caves may have served as a form of collective storage, perhaps for grain or other important resources. This theory is supported by the presence of grinding tools and remains of plants found in nearby areas. But why build such an elaborate, seemingly inaccessible structure for something so mundane as food storage? The cave's location, high in the cliffs, suggests they may have been more than just functional. They may have been symbolic, marking the site as a place of power or significance. Were the niches a representation of something larger, perhaps the social hierarchy of the Guanches, or the relationship between the living and the divine? Another theory, more speculative but equally intriguing, is that the Valerón Caves may have been used for astronomical observations. The Guanches were known to have had a deep knowledge of the stars, and some have suggested that the positioning of the niches could align with certain celestial events. Could these caves have been designed with astronomical precision, serving as a site for ritualistic practices that were tied to the cycles of the moon, the stars, or the sun? Was there some kind of cosmic significance to the site that we have yet to fully understand? Despite these theories, much about the Valerón Caves remains speculative. There is no definitive answer as to what purpose they served or why they were constructed in the first place. The absence of clear artifacts and the relative inaccessibility of the site only adds to the sense of mystery that surrounds it. Some have even suggested that the caves were abandoned long before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the 15th century, possibly due to a shift in the Guanches' spiritual beliefs or a change in their societal structure. If that is the case, what led to this sudden abandonment? Was it the decline of a religious tradition, or something more catastrophic, a famine, a war, or a shift in the balance of power? Today, The Valerón Caves stand as a haunting reminder of a culture that once thrived on these islands, leaving behind only stone to tell their story. But what story is it that these stones are trying to tell? The niches, carved into the rock with such care and precision, seem to whisper of an ancient people who believed in the power of the earth, the sky, and the ancestors. Yet, the true purpose of the site, whether as a storage facility, a religious shrine, or an astronomical observatory, remains one of the great mysteries of the ancient world. As we stand before the Valerón Caves, we are left with more questions than answers. What did the Guanches intend to communicate with this mysterious site? What rituals took place here, and what knowledge did they hold? The echoes of their civilization still resonate in the quiet hills of Gran Canaria, waiting for someone, someday, to decode the secrets that lie within these ancient stone walls. After leaving behind the enigmatic caves of Valerón, our journey now takes us to a distant, sun-drenched coast in East Africa, where the pulse of ancient civilizations reverberates through the sands of time. Here, in the coastal region of modern-day Tanzania, lies a site that has baffled archaeologists for centuries: the Kunduchi Ruins, a place where the echoes of an ancient, sophisticated culture seem to rise from the dust, yet the story of who built it and why remains largely a mystery. The ruins are located on a rocky outcrop just a short distance from the Indian Ocean, and from afar, the site appears almost as though it were frozen in time. Stone walls, weathered by centuries of salt air and relentless waves, stretch across the landscape. The structure's impressive architecture is revealed slowly as one approaches: crumbling fortifications, ancient terraces, and remnants of buildings that were once likely grand, constructed with skill and precision. Today, much of the site is overgrown with dense vegetation, as if nature itself has been trying to reclaim the stone relics of a forgotten past. What makes Kunduchi so intriguing is not just its location, but the questions it raises about the people who lived here and the civilization that thrived for a time along these shores. The site is believed to date back to at least the 12th century AD, though some evidence suggests that it could be older. It is clear that the builders of Kunduchi had access to advanced knowledge, particularly in construction techniques. The walls are composed of large, meticulously shaped stones, arranged with precision. Some of the structures appear to have been fortified, with high, thick walls and narrow passageways designed for defense. Was Kunduchi a military stronghold, or did it serve another, more mysterious purpose? Mainstream archaeological theory suggests that the ruins are the remnants of a Swahili city, part of the network of city-states that flourished along the East African coast during the medieval period. The Swahili coast was known for its wealth, built on trade with far-off lands such as Persia, Arabia, and even China. The ancient city of Kunduchi may have been an important center for trade and commerce, acting as a link between the African interior and the wider world. Its proximity to the Indian Ocean suggests that it was strategically located for maritime trade, with goods such as gold, ivory, and exotic animals passing through its markets. Yet, even this explanation doesn't fully account for the sheer scale and complexity of the site. Why, for instance, would a trading city of such significance have been abandoned so suddenly? Though some historians argue that the city's decline may have been linked to shifting trade routes or the rise of new political powers in the region, the site's abandonment remains shrouded in mystery. The nearby coastline, with its fertile land and favorable position for seafaring, should have provided the perfect conditions for continued prosperity. But the silence that now hangs over the ruins is deafening, an unsettling reminder that many civilizations have risen and fallen, their stories swallowed by time. The ruins themselves offer tantalizing hints that there may have been more to Kunduchi than simple trade and commerce. Some of the structures appear to have been deliberately buried or destroyed. The main buildings, with their skillful stonework, are often surrounded by smaller, less durable structures that suggest a different purpose. Could these smaller structures have been homes, temples, or even burial sites? Evidence of ritualistic practices is sparse, but it's clear that the city's inhabitants were not solely focused on material wealth. Was Kunduchi a place of spiritual significance as well as economic importance? As intriguing as these facts are, what truly deepens the mystery is the unanswered question of the city's builders and their origins. Some archaeologists believe that Kunduchi was established by the Swahili people, whose ancestors had a long history along the coast. But this explanation leaves a number of gaps in the story. Who were the first inhabitants of this region? Where did they come from? And what was their culture like before the rise of the Swahili city-states? Could the people of Kunduchi have been part of an earlier civilization, perhaps one that was wiped out by war or environmental catastrophe? This question leads us to one of the more speculative theories surrounding the ruins, namely, that the builders of Kunduchi were part of a now lost civilization, one that may have had a level of sophistication far beyond what we currently attribute to the ancient Swahili city-states. Some suggest that the architectural style of the Kunduchi ruins bears striking similarities to other ancient African stone structures, such as the Great Zimbabwe ruins, or the mysterious stone circles found in the northern part of the continent. Could these connections indicate a cultural link, or even a common origin, between these diverse sites? Could the people of Kunduchi have shared knowledge with other distant civilizations, creating a network of forgotten cities whose stories remain buried beneath layers of history? There is also the possibility that Kunduchi's enigmatic architecture serves a purpose that we are still unable to fully comprehend. Some researchers suggest that the site may have had astronomical significance, perhaps as a place for observing the stars, the sun, or the moon. Was Kunduchi a center of knowledge, a place where ancient sages or priests passed down wisdom through the alignment of structures and the positioning of stones? Given the advanced astronomical practices of ancient cultures across the world, it is not out of the question that the builders of Kunduchi could have shared similar beliefs or practices, encoded into their architectural design. Adding to the mystery is the site's location. The proximity to the Indian Ocean, a major trade route for ancient seafaring civilizations, raises the question of who exactly the inhabitants were interacting with. Was Kunduchi part of an even larger interconnected global network, one that included India, Arabia, and the Far East? The discovery of items such as pottery shards, coins, and other goods from distant lands suggests that trade was an essential part of life at Kunduchi. But was there more to these interactions than just commerce? Could the city have been a hub for cultural exchange, where different civilizations met, shared ideas, and influenced each other? Or perhaps, more speculatively, was Kunduchi a place where ancient maritime explorers learned to navigate the seas with advanced techniques, their knowledge lost to history when the city was abandoned? Despite the tantalizing clues left behind by the ruins, much about Kunduchi remains unknowable. The true reason for its rise and sudden decline is still a subject of intense debate. Could it be that the site holds a deeper secret, one that is hidden from us, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to dig beneath the surface? And if so, what might it reveal about the people who lived here, their culture, and their place in the broader tapestry of human history? As we stand before the crumbling walls of the Kunduchi ruins, we are left with more questions than answers. The site, with its rich history and silent beauty, invites us to look beyond the obvious, to consider what might have been and what still remains to be discovered. The mystery of Kunduchi endures, and perhaps, in time, we will uncover the full story of this long-forgotten city, hidden in the shadow of the Indian Ocean. Until then, we can only wonder, what secrets still lie buried in the stones of Kunduchi? As we leave behind the coastal mysteries of Kunduchi, our journey now brings us to the heart of the Indian subcontinent, where a forgotten civilization once thrived, leaving behind clues that challenge our understanding of early urban development. Nestled in the fertile plains of Odisha, India, is a site that has long intrigued archaeologists, Sisupalgarh. Though not as widely known as some of the great ancient cities of the world, Sisupalgarh holds one of the most enigmatic phases of urban history, the Proto-Phase, a period shrouded in both discovery and mystery. The ruins of Sisupalgarh rise subtly from the landscape, their outlines still faint but unmistakable. From a distance, the site appears like a series of low, weathered walls and earthen mounds, but as you draw closer, the scale of the place becomes apparent. This ancient settlement, which dates back to around the 4th century BC, stretches across a vast area, covering several hectares. Though the site is often overshadowed by its more famous contemporaries, it is believed to be one of the earliest examples of planned urbanization in India, predating even the great Mauryan Empire. Yet, despite its significance, the true nature of Sisupalgarh remains elusive. At the heart of Sisupalgarh is its fortification, a massive wall, thick and imposing, which once surrounded the city like a protective embrace. This fortification, which encircles the site, is composed of large, carefully cut sandstone blocks. The sheer scale of the wall suggests that the people who built it possessed advanced architectural knowledge, yet there is something perplexing about its construction. The wall is not built to the heights typical of later fortifications, nor does it appear to have been designed for defense in the conventional sense. Rather, it seems as though the wall was intended to demarcate a space, perhaps to protect a community, or to create a boundary between sacred and secular spaces. Why was this wall built so precisely, and why with such care, if its defensive purpose is unclear? As archaeologists have excavated the site, they have uncovered not only the fortifications, but also a complex network of streets, drains, and structures that suggest Sisupalgarh was a well-organized urban center. The layout of the city, with its grid-like street patterns and carefully planned drainage system, hints at an early understanding of urban infrastructure, something not typically associated with settlements of this time period. Was Sisupalgarh a thriving metropolis, or was it merely a regional hub, overshadowed by the larger cities of its time? The precision of its layout speaks of an organized leadership, a society that valued order, but what remains unclear is the purpose and significance of the site. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Sisupalgarh Proto-Phase is the discovery of a remarkable series of artifacts, including pottery, inscriptions, and tools. These objects offer insight into the daily life of its inhabitants, yet they also present questions that have yet to be fully answered. Among the pottery fragments, for instance, are several pieces adorned with symbols and motifs that do not appear to align with any known cultural tradition from that era. Some researchers suggest that these motifs could represent an early form of writing, potentially older than other known systems in South Asia. If true, this could have profound implications for our understanding of the development of written language in the region. Was Sisupalgarh the birthplace of an unknown script, or were these symbols part of a broader cultural exchange with other, still undiscovered civilizations? In addition to these artifacts, excavations have uncovered the remnants of large public structures, which some scholars believe were used for ritual or administrative purposes. The sheer scale of these buildings, combined with the lack of evidence for residential use, suggests that Sisupalgarh may have been a ceremonial or political center. But to what end? Was it a site for regional governance, a meeting place for neighboring tribes, or a spiritual center? The absence of clear evidence linking Sisupalgarh to a specific ruler or dynasty only deepens the mystery. Did the city have a king or leader, or was it governed by a council or assembly? And if so, what political system did they use? The absence of large palatial structures further complicates our understanding of its social hierarchy. Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of Sisupalgarh's proto-phase lies in its potential connection to other, more widely known civilizations of the ancient world. The time period during which Sisupalgarh flourished, around the 4th century BC, is one of remarkable cultural exchange and migration. The Mauryan Empire, the first great pan-Indian empire, would rise shortly after Sisupalgarh's decline. In the west, the Greeks, under Alexander the Great, were pushing into the Indian subcontinent, bringing with them new ideas and cultural influences. Was Sisupalgarh part of this broader exchange? Were its people influenced by or influencing these far-reaching civilizations, or was it isolated, developing on its own unique path? Some historians have proposed that the Proto-Phase of Sisupalgarh could represent an early phase of Indo-Greek interaction, an idea that challenges our traditional understanding of ancient Indian history and its connections to the Mediterranean world. But the evidence for such claims remains speculative at best. Theories about the fall of Sisupalgarh are equally enigmatic. Archaeological evidence suggests that by the 3rd century BC, the city began to decline, with signs of abandonment and disuse. The fortifications, once impressive, were left to crumble, and many of the structures that made up the city's core were abandoned. What led to the decline of such a well-organized and advanced urban center? Was it a shift in trade routes, a change in political power, or perhaps something more catastrophic, such as war or natural disaster? Some archaeologists suggest that the city may have fallen victim to the rise of the Mauryan Empire, with its powerful centralized administration and military might. Others argue that it could have been the result of internal collapse, the slow disintegration of a society that was no longer able to sustain its complex systems. One intriguing possibility is that Sisupalgarh's decline may have been linked to environmental factors. Situated near the Mahanadi River, the region is prone to flooding, and evidence of water management systems suggests that the city may have relied heavily on controlled irrigation and water supply. Was the city's downfall the result of a changing climate, which led to shifts in the region's water resources? Could this have forced the inhabitants to abandon the site and seek out new areas more hospitable to life? As with many ancient sites, the questions surrounding Sisupalgarh remain open. The artifacts, the layout, and the structures all point to a sophisticated urban society, one with advanced knowledge of architecture, governance, and social organization. Yet, the absence of clear historical records and the lack of direct evidence linking Sisupalgarh to any known kingdom or empire leaves us with a sense of profound mystery. Could this be an example of an early, independent urban culture that existed in isolation, or was it part of a broader, interconnected world of ancient civilizations? Standing at the site today, amid the remnants of a civilization that once stood at the crossroads of history, we are left with more questions than answers. What was the true purpose of Sisupalgarh? What knowledge was lost when it faded into obscurity? And what other mysteries might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets? In the end, the Proto-Phase of Sisupalgarh is a testament to the complexity and richness of ancient human history, one that, though largely forgotten, still whispers to us from the silent walls of the past. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of ancient mysteries, our next destination takes us to the rugged hills of Corsica, where stone walls whisper the secrets of a civilization that once thrived in isolation, far from the reaches of the great empires of the Mediterranean. Here, perched on a rocky promontory, stands the Castellu di Cucuruzzu, a fortified settlement that has fascinated archaeologists and historians for centuries. This ancient site, surrounded by the wild beauty of the island's dense forests and craggy hills, offers a glimpse into a past that remains as enigmatic as the stone it is built from. The Castellu di Cucuruzzu sits in an imposing position above the village of Levi, its ancient walls still standing tall against the passage of time. From a distance, the fortress appears to rise from the very landscape itself, its weathered stones blending seamlessly with the surrounding terrain. The castle is believed to have been constructed around the 4th millennium BC, though some argue it could be even older, potentially dating back to the Bronze Age. What's most remarkable about this site is the way it seems to bridge the gap between prehistory and early civilization. Though far from being an architectural marvel by modern standards, the castello is striking in its design and its strategic location. The settlement is composed of a series of interconnected stone structures, all built with large, roughly hewn blocks of granite, characteristic of the Corsican megalithic tradition. The buildings, while not grand in scale, show signs of a highly organized society. A defensive wall surrounds the settlement, with a narrow entrance leading into a central courtyard, where various structures, including dwellings, storage spaces, and possibly ritual areas, are grouped. The tight, deliberate arrangement of these structures suggests a community that valued both protection and organization, an early indication of a society that had outgrown simple nomadic living. What makes Castellu di Cucuruzzu so fascinating, however, is the ongoing mystery surrounding its purpose. Was it purely a military fortification, as some researchers have suggested? Its high vantage point, commanding a view of the surrounding valleys, would certainly make it an ideal location for monitoring the movements of potential invaders. The defensive walls, built with meticulous care, could indicate a need to protect the inhabitants from external threats. Yet, there's something about the settlement's layout that suggests its role may have been more complex than a mere stronghold. The lack of a significant number of weapons or evidence of warfare at the site raises intriguing questions. Instead, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a thriving agricultural and pastoral community, with tools and implements that suggest a society deeply connected to the land. The inhabitants of Castellu di Cucuruzzu were likely farmers and herders, living off the fertile land surrounding the site. Could it be that this fortress was not simply a military outpost, but a center of commerce or religion? The site's commanding position, its stone structures, and its mysterious megalithic architecture suggest that it may have had ceremonial or spiritual significance, something more than just a refuge from war. But what kind of rituals could have taken place here, high in the Corsican hills, far from the influence of neighboring civilizations? Some researchers have pointed to the site's potential connection to the ancient Nuraghic civilization, known for its distinctive stone towers and fortifications spread throughout Sardinia and Corsica. While the Castellu di Cucuruzzu predates the peak of the Nuraghic culture, it is possible that the people who built it were early precursors to this civilization. The distinctive megalithic construction, with large stone blocks carefully arranged to form walls and structures, bears a striking resemblance to the famous Nuraghe towers of Sardinia. Could Castellu di Cucuruzzu have been part of the early development of the Nuraghic culture, or was it a completely separate entity with its own unique traditions and beliefs? Adding to the mystery is the curious lack of written records associated with Castellu di Cucuruzzu. Like many ancient sites, the lack of written evidence leaves us to rely on physical artifacts and the interpretation of archaeological remains. Yet the absence of inscriptions or clear signs of a ruling elite raises questions about the structure of the society that lived there. Was the Castellu di Cucuruzzu a place ruled by a single leader, or was it a more egalitarian society? The absence of grand palaces or elaborate tombs seems to suggest that power was not concentrated in the hands of a few. Yet, the organization of the settlement, its clear boundaries, defensive walls, and centralized layout, implies that the community was governed in some capacity. Who were the rulers of this fortress, and what did they believe in? Were they simple chieftains, or did they hold spiritual significance in the eyes of the people? Beyond these practical questions lies the more speculative theories about the purpose of the Castellu di Cucuruzzu. Some have suggested that the settlement could have had astronomical significance. The positioning of certain structures within the site seems to align with certain celestial events, much like the famous megalithic structures of Stonehenge in Britain. Could the inhabitants of Castellu di Cucuruzzu have been observing the stars, marking the cycles of the moon or the sun, and using their knowledge of the heavens for agricultural or spiritual purposes? If so, this would place the site among the earliest known observatories in Europe, offering a glimpse into the profound connection that ancient societies had with the natural world. The idea of a ceremonial or astronomical function is supported by the discovery of peculiar carvings on the stones surrounding the settlement. These markings, which appear to be simple geometric shapes, may have been used as part of some kind of ritualistic or calendrical system. Could these carvings represent a lost form of communication, a language that has yet to be fully deciphered? The very existence of these carvings raises more questions than answers. If they were intended for ritual use, what kind of rituals were they part of? Were these rituals linked to the cycles of nature, or were they more concerned with something else, perhaps the worship of the elements, the land, or the ancestors? As we look deeper into the mystery of Castellu di Cucuruzzu, we are left to wonder, what kind of people lived here so long ago in the remote hills of Corsica? Were they simply farmers and warriors, or did they hold knowledge and beliefs that have been lost to time? The absence of definitive evidence leaves us to imagine their lives and their culture. The megalithic stones, the carved markings, and the strategic placement of the settlement hint at a people who were not just concerned with survival, but with something greater, perhaps a spiritual or cosmic understanding that transcended the mundane concerns of everyday life. Standing among the ancient stones of Castellu di Cucuruzzu, we can't help but feel the weight of time pressing down upon us. This site, though largely forgotten, still holds a key to understanding the people who built it. What remains to be discovered within its walls and beneath its stones? The mystery of Castellu di Cucuruzzu endures, inviting us to dig deeper and to keep asking questions. What was the true purpose of this fortress? Was it a place of power, a center for spirituality, or simply a refuge from the outside world? And, most intriguingly, what knowledge might still be hidden in the ruins, waiting for someone to uncover it? The Castellu di Cucuruzzu stands as a testament to the mysteries that ancient civilizations leave behind, and to the questions that, even today, remain unanswered. As our journey through the ancient enigmas of the world continues, we now turn our attention to a site that seems to pulse with a quiet, almost otherworldly energy. Maeshowe, a megalithic tomb on the Orkney Islands of northern Scotland. Nestled among a landscape of rolling hills and windswept grasses, this prehistoric monument has stood for thousands of years, its purpose and origins cloaked in mystery. Here, in the remote reaches of the British Isles, lies a place that invites us to reconsider our assumptions about ancient cultures, their knowledge, and their understanding of the cosmos. Maeshowe is an imposing structure, its monumental entrance framed by massive stones, weathered by centuries of salt-laden winds. The tomb, part of the broader Neolithic complex of Orkney, dates back to around 2800 BC, making it one of the oldest and most significant monuments of its kind in Europe. From a distance, Maeshowe appears as a large mound, inconspicuous among the natural landscape. However, once you step inside, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary burial site. The interior is a stark contrast to its exterior, an ancient chamber meticulously constructed from large, carefully shaped stones, designed with precision and purpose. Its massive structure is a testament to the skill of the people who built it. The chamber of Maeshowe is large and dark, with a long, narrow passageway that leads into the heart of the tomb. Inside, the walls curve gently upwards, creating a sense of spaciousness despite the confined quarters. The most striking feature of Maeshowe is its architectural design. The tomb is aligned with remarkable precision, with the entrance positioned to capture the light of the setting sun during the winter solstice. For a structure built thousands of years ago, this alignment with the solar cycle suggests a deep understanding of astronomy, an understanding that many modern cultures would only achieve much later in history. But why, exactly, did the builders of Maeshowe go to such lengths to align their tomb with the heavens? Archaeologists have long speculated that Maeshowe was not just a tomb, but a place of profound spiritual and astronomical significance. The precision with which it was constructed points to a highly organized society with a deep understanding of the natural world. Could it have been built as part of a wider tradition of megalithic tombs designed to honor the dead, or was it intended for something more, a center for rituals, ceremonies, or astronomical observations? The alignment of the tomb with the solstices suggests that it may have played a central role in marking important celestial events, perhaps linking the lives of the living with the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars. The tomb's connection to the solstice is particularly significant, as this event held great importance for many ancient cultures, symbolizing the rebirth of the sun and the cycle of life and death. Yet, despite the wealth of archaeological evidence, the full purpose of Maeshowe remains elusive. Some believe that it was simply a royal tomb, constructed for a powerful leader or group of leaders. Others suggest that it was used for ceremonial purposes, a sacred space where the living could commune with the dead and with the cosmos. But there is still no consensus on the exact role this enigmatic tomb played in the lives of its builders. Who were the people who constructed Maeshowe, and what drove them to create such an awe-inspiring monument? Was it a single family or community, or was it part of a larger cultural tradition that spanned the islands? One of the most fascinating aspects of Maeshowe is the discovery of carvings on its walls. These markings, which were likely made by visitors to the tomb long after it was first constructed, add another layer of intrigue to an already mysterious site. The carvings are primarily geometric in nature, but there are also several symbols that resemble runes, pointing to the possibility that the site was used by Norse settlers long after its original construction. Some of the runic inscriptions are thought to have been made by Viking invaders who came to the Orkney Islands around the 9th century AD, though their significance is still debated. What message did these carvings hold, and why were they made in a place of such historical importance? Were the Vikings simply marking their territory, or did they see Maeshowe as a sacred or powerful place, carrying on a tradition that had begun millennia earlier? As intriguing as the runic carvings are, they are only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the mysteries of Maeshowe. One of the most persistent questions surrounding the site is why it was built in the first place. Its elaborate design, astronomical alignment, and enduring significance suggest that the tomb was far more than just a burial site. It may have been a place where ancient people could come to connect with their ancestors, to honor the gods, or to mark the passage of time. The idea that Maeshowe was a ceremonial center is supported by other nearby sites, such as the Ring of Brodgar and the Stones of Stennis, which form part of a larger megalithic complex on Orkney. The alignment of these sites with celestial events further suggests that the builders of Maeshowe had a sophisticated understanding of the stars, the sun, and the moon. But what exactly were they trying to achieve? Was this an effort to harness the power of the cosmos, or was it a means of tracking time for agricultural or social purposes? Another curious element of Maeshowe is its location. The tomb is situated in a relatively remote part of the Orkney Islands, far from any major settlements or trade routes. What drew the builders of Maeshowe to this location, and why did they choose to construct such a monumental tomb in such a secluded place? Some archaeologists have suggested that Maeshowe may have been strategically placed to align with other nearby monuments, creating a network of sacred sites that held significant meaning for the people of Orkney. Could this have been a place where people gathered to celebrate the solstice, to mark the changing seasons, or to perform rituals that connected them to the land and the heavens? There are also theories that Maeshowe was not just a tomb, but a place of initiation or transformation. Some researchers believe that the site could have been used in rites of passage, where individuals underwent a spiritual journey marked by symbolic death and rebirth. Could the tomb have been a place where the living entered into the realm of the dead, seeking guidance or blessings from ancestors or deities? If so, this would suggest that the people of Maeshowe saw death not as an end, but as a transition into another form of existence, where the boundaries between the living and the dead were blurred. Despite the wealth of theories surrounding Maeshowe, there is still much that remains unknown. The true significance of the tomb, its exact purpose, and the identity of its builders all remain subjects of ongoing research and speculation. What we do know is that Maeshowe is an awe-inspiring testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the ancient people who built it. Its alignment with the sun, the carvings on its walls, and its enduring legacy all suggest that this site was far more than just a burial place. It was a place of power, a center of ritual and meaning that connected the people of Orkney with the cosmos, with their ancestors, and with forces beyond their understanding. As we stand at the entrance of Maeshowe today, we can't help but wonder, what else might lie hidden within this ancient tomb? What secrets have yet to be uncovered, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? Maeshowe remains a mystery, a monument to the past that continues to captivate the imagination and challenge our understanding of ancient cultures. What lies beneath its stones? And how many more secrets from the distant past remain buried, waiting for the light of discovery to shine upon them? As we move further into the realm of ancient and mysterious monuments, our next stop takes us to the far reaches of the Pacific Ocean, to a small and seemingly unassuming island, Palau. Located in the Micronesian region, Palau is home to a fascinating and little-known site that, like so many ancient places, raises more questions than it answers. Amidst the lush tropical greenery and the gentle lapping of the Pacific waves, the Badrulchau stone monoliths stand as silent sentinels, their weathered surfaces etched with the passage of time. These massive stone structures, some reaching heights of over 10 feet, are arranged in enigmatic formations across a secluded part of the island. The monoliths of Badrulchau are not the sort of ancient ruins one might expect to find in such a remote location. Unlike the grand stone temples or megalithic circles of Europe, the Badrulchau stones appear almost deliberately isolated, set apart from the other historical markers of the island. Their purpose, like their creators, remains unclear. Some scholars have identified them as part of an ancient ceremonial site, while others have proposed more speculative theories. The truth may lie somewhere in between, with these stones serving purposes both practical and spiritual, yet even that conclusion still leaves much to be uncovered. What is most striking about the Badrulchau monoliths is the stark contrast they present against the natural beauty of Palau. The stone giants seem both ancient and timeless, as though they have been standing watch over the island for centuries, if not millennia. The surrounding jungle presses in around the site, a dense canopy of green that only adds to the sense of mystery and seclusion. The stones are carved from local limestone, their surfaces weathered and worn by centuries of rain, wind, and salt water. Some monoliths are smooth and featureless, while others are adorned with intricate carvings that seem to hint at the lost traditions of a culture now forgotten. What purpose did these stones serve? Theories abound. Some researchers suggest that the monoliths were erected as markers of territorial boundaries, while others believe they may have had a more sacred or ceremonial function. There is no shortage of speculation regarding the site's cultural significance. Some scholars have even compared the Badrulchau stones to the famous Maui statues of Easter Island, suggesting that both sets of monoliths could have been the work of a similar Polynesian or Austronesian civilization. Could the builders of Badrulchau have been part of a broader seafaring culture that spread across the Pacific, leaving behind enigmatic monuments as proof of their presence? Interestingly, no written records exist regarding the Badrulchau monoliths or the people who created them. The Palauan oral traditions provide some insight into the ancient culture of the island, but they remain largely silent on the specific origins of the monoliths themselves. One theory proposes that the stones were created by an early civilization that inhabited Palau long before the arrival of the island's more well-known settlers. These so-called prehistoric people may have had sophisticated knowledge of stoneworking and navigation, using the monoliths as part of a complex network of astronomical observations or religious rituals. The alignment of the monoliths, while not perfectly clear, seems to suggest that the stones may have been placed in alignment with celestial events, much like the megalithic structures of Europe. Could the builders of Badrulchau have been attempting to chart the movements of the stars, or to track the seasonal rhythms of the ocean and sky? The mystery of the monoliths deepens when we consider their striking resemblance to other megalithic structures found across the Pacific. From Easter Island to Hawaii, the Pacific Islands are home to a number of ancient stone structures that bear certain similarities to the Badrulchau site. The practice of carving large stones into humanoid or symbolic forms was widespread across many ancient cultures in the region. But why did the people of Palau, specifically, create such monumental stones? Were they attempting to communicate with the gods, as some researchers suggest? Or were they attempting to leave a record of their achievements for future generations? Some archaeologists have even posited that the stones might have been markers for important burial sites or ceremonial spaces, though no definitive evidence of such a connection has been found at Badrulchau. Adding to the intrigue surrounding the site is the presence of mysterious carvings on some of the stones. While many of the monoliths are smooth and unadorned, others bear what appear to be faint symbols, geometric patterns, animal-like motifs, and perhaps even anthropomorphic figures. What do these carvings represent? Are they simply decorative, or do they hold deeper meaning? Some researchers suggest that they may be symbolic representations of the island's natural world, possibly related to the mythology and cosmology of Palau's ancient inhabitants. The presence of similar symbols in other Pacific cultures suggests that these people may have shared a common symbolic language, or that there was an ancient network of cultural exchange across the islands. But even the more grounded theories about the Badrulchau stones are not without their uncertainties. There is much debate over the age of the site. Some experts suggest that the monoliths may date back as far as 2000 BC, while others place the construction of the site closer to 500 BC. The variations in dating reflect the difficulty in pinpointing the true origins of the site, especially in the absence of written records or clear archaeological evidence. The lack of pottery, tools, or other material culture at the site only adds to the mystery, leaving us with nothing but the stones themselves to decode the past. Is it possible that the Badrulchau monoliths are the remnants of a forgotten culture, one whose achievements have been lost to time? Or were they part of a larger, interconnected network of ancient Pacific civilizations, all of whom left behind similar stone structures as a testament to their shared beliefs and knowledge? It is tantalizing to imagine that the monoliths of Badrulchau could hold the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of the ancient Pacific world, one that remains just out of reach. As with so many ancient sites, the Badrulchau monoliths invite us to ponder the mysteries of the past, to imagine the people who created them, and to consider the ways in which we, too, leave our mark on the world. What motivated the creators of these stones? Was it a desire to communicate with the divine, to mark a sacred space, or to leave a message for future generations? And what, if anything, did they understand about the cosmos that we have yet to uncover? The Badrulchau stone monoliths remain an enduring enigma, their purpose and significance still veiled in mystery. As the wind whispers through the tall grasses of Palau, it is easy to imagine that these stones, standing tall against the passage of time, hold secrets yet to be revealed. The questions they raise about ancient knowledge, ritual, and cosmic understanding remain unanswered, leaving us to wonder what else might still be hidden beneath their weathered surfaces. How much more could we learn if we only had access to the stories of the people who once lived here, And what might they have known about the world that we are still struggling to understand? The Badrulchau monoliths, like so many ancient wonders, remind us that the past is not just a collection of facts and dates, but a vast, mysterious world that continues to offer new riddles to be solved. As we continue our exploration of the world's most enigmatic archaeological sites, we now journey to the rugged island of Sardinia, in the heart of the Mediterranean. Here, amidst its arid landscapes and rolling hills, stands an ancient monument whose purpose remains shrouded in mystery, the Nuraghe Losa. Rising from the Sardinian countryside, this towering stone structure is part of a larger network of megalithic ruins built by the mysterious Nuragic civilization, a people who left behind no written records, but whose achievements continue to captivate archaeologists and historians alike. The Nuraghe Losa, located in the central part of the island, is one of the most well-preserved examples of the Nuragic style of architecture, a unique form of stone construction that dominated Sardinia between 1800 and 500 BC. Unlike anything else seen in the ancient world, the Nuraghe, plural of Nuraghe, are complex, circular towers made from large, uncut stones. These structures are often conical in shape, tapering to a narrow top, and are thought to have served as both fortified dwellings and places of ritual significance. Standing tall against the horizon, the Nuraghe Losa seems like a sentinel, guarding the landscape as it has done for thousands of years. At first glance, the structure is imposing, a massive tower with thick, rounded walls, built without mortar, relying solely on the precision of the stonework to hold the structure together. The construction is highly durable, capable of withstanding the test of time, erosion, and even earthquakes. The interior of the Nuraghe Losa is equally fascinating. It is not a single room, but a series of interconnected chambers that spiral inward, connected by narrow passages and steep staircases. The way these chambers are arranged suggests that the builders of the Nuraghe were masters of spatial planning, employing techniques that would not be seen in the Mediterranean world for centuries. The true purpose of the Nuraghe Losa, like many other Nuraghe, remains a subject of much debate. Was it a defensive fortification? A residence for a ruling elite? Or perhaps, as some have speculated, a religious center dedicated to the worship of ancient deities? The sheer size and complexity of the structure imply that it was more than just a simple dwelling. It was likely a focal point of power, a place that symbolized control over both the land and its people. However, there is little direct evidence to confirm this. What we do know is that the Nuragic people were highly organized, with a society that seems to have been centered around these monumental structures, scattered throughout the island. In terms of function, the most widely accepted theory is that the Nuraghe Losa served as a defensive fortress. The island of Sardinia has long been a crossroads of cultures, a place where different peoples came into contact and sometimes conflict. The strategic location of the Nuraghe Losa, with its elevated position overlooking the surrounding landscape, would have made it an ideal stronghold for monitoring the movements of invaders or rival tribes. The thick, sturdy walls of the structure would have provided protection for its inhabitants, while the complex internal passages could have allowed for quick movement and defense in the event of an attack. Yet, while the military explanation is plausible, it does not entirely explain the complexity of the structure. The chambers within the Nuraghe Losa are not just functional, they are also suggestive of a highly ritualized society. Some researchers have pointed out the alignment of the structure with certain celestial events, suggesting that it may have been designed to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Could it have served as an observatory or a sacred site where rituals were performed in connection with the celestial bodies? The people of Sardinia, like many ancient cultures, were deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, and the alignment of the Nuraghe Losa with the sky could indicate that it had a ceremonial or spiritual role. Adding to the mystery of the site are the numerous artifacts that have been found in and around the Nuraghe Losa. These include pottery, bronze tools, and fragments of sculptures that suggest a complex and sophisticated society. The presence of animal bones and offerings found within the chambers indicates that rituals were indeed performed here. But what was the nature of these ceremonies? Was it a place of ancestor worship, where the dead were honored and communed with? Or was it a site dedicated to the gods, where the living sought favor and protection? The artifacts, while plentiful, offer little in terms of direct answers. They raise even more questions about the true nature of the site and the people who built it. Perhaps even more mysterious are the theories surrounding the origins of the Nuraghic civilization itself. Who were the people who built the Nuraghe Losa, and where did they come from? The Nuraghic civilization is often described as indigenous to Sardinia, but their sudden appearance on the island, with their advanced architectural techniques and social organization, suggests that there may have been outside influences at play. Some theories propose that the Nuraghic people were part of a larger ancient Mediterranean culture, possibly even connected to the great seafaring civilizations of the Bronze Age. Were they descendants of a forgotten empire, or were they a unique culture that developed in isolation? Could their advanced building techniques have been influenced by contact with other civilizations, or were they an innovation of their own? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Nuraghe Losa, and the Nuraghic culture in general, is the ongoing mystery surrounding their disappearance. By the end of the first millennium BC, the Nuraghic civilization seemed to have collapsed or faded away. What caused this decline? Was it the result of invasion, internal strife, or environmental changes? Some have suggested that the fall of the Nuraghic civilization was due to external pressures, such as the arrival of the Phoenicians or the Carthaginians, who eventually colonized Sardinia. Others believe that the decline was more gradual, a result of changing social, economic, or environmental factors. Whatever the cause, the disappearance of the Nuraghic culture remains a mystery, leaving the Nuraghe Losa and its sister structures as the only lasting testimony to a people whose story we may never fully know. The mystery deepens when we consider the role that the Nuraghe Losa and other similar structures may have played in the broader cultural landscape of ancient Sardinia. Were they simply defensive strongholds, or did they have a much larger role to play in the lives of the island's inhabitants? Could the Nuraghe have been used as part of a larger ritual network, a system of spiritual and social connections that bound the island's people together? The absence of written records makes it difficult to answer these questions definitively, but the archaeological evidence suggests that the Nuraghic people were far more sophisticated than we might initially assume. The questions surrounding the Nuraghe Losa remain open and unanswered. Was it a fortress, a ceremonial site, or a symbol of power? What was the true purpose of this remarkable structure, and what does it tell us about the civilization that created it? And perhaps most importantly, what secrets might still be hidden beneath the stone? The Nuraghe Losa, like so many ancient monuments, invites us to ponder the mysteries of the past, to ask questions, and to seek answers that may remain forever out of reach. As we stand before this ancient tower, it is impossible not to wonder, how much of the past is lost to time, and how much is still waiting to be discovered? The Nuraghe Losa stands as a silent witness to an ancient civilization, its purpose and meaning still veiled in mystery. What knowledge did the builders of this extraordinary structure possess, and what might still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? The answers to these questions may remain elusive, but the journey to uncover them continues as the mystery of Nuraghe Losa endures. As we continue our journey into the heart of ancient mysteries, we turn now to the windswept hills of County Kerry in southwestern Ireland, where a series of stone forts known as the Kerry Stone Forts stand quietly against the passing of time. These fortifications, which dot the rugged landscape like silent sentinels, have long been a subject of intrigue. Their origins are obscured by the mists of history, and their purpose, though often speculated upon, remains elusive. What we do know is that they represent a remarkable feat of engineering and a testament to the unknown people who built them, people who have long since vanished, leaving behind only their stone structures to speak of their lives. The Kerry stone forts are typically circular in shape, with thick defensive walls made from large stones, carefully stacked without the use of mortar. These walls, some rising to heights of over 12 feet, were likely designed to protect the inhabitants from both the natural elements and human threats. The forts often feature a single entrance, strategically placed to control access, and their interiors are divided into several compartments, perhaps serving as living spaces or storage areas. Their design, while functional, also hints at a certain level of sophistication, suggesting that the people who built them had both the knowledge and the resources to construct durable and enduring structures. The location of these forts is significant. They are often perched on hilltops or prominent ridges, offering sweeping views of the surrounding countryside. This elevated positioning would have provided an advantageous vantage point for monitoring the area, allowing the inhabitants to detect approaching enemies from miles away. It is easy to imagine that these stone forts were once part of a network of fortified settlements, each one serving as a bastion of security for the people who lived in what was likely a turbulent time. But who were these people, and why did they feel the need to build such fortifications? The mainstream historical view suggests that the Kerry stone forts were constructed during the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BC and 300 AD, a period marked by the rise of tribal societies across Ireland. It is believed that the people who built these forts were part of a Celtic-speaking culture that inhabited the island at the time. The stone structures may have been designed as defensive strongholds to protect the tribes from rival groups or invaders. The idea of a fortified settlement is consistent with what we know about Celtic societies, which were often organized into clans or tribes that were fiercely protective of their territory. Yet, despite this general understanding, there are several unresolved questions about the Kerry stone forts that cast doubt on this simple explanation. For one, the scale of the fortifications varies greatly. Some are relatively small, while others are vast complexes with multiple layers of walls, internal chambers, and defensive features. This variability suggests that the construction of these forts may have spanned a much longer period than previously thought. Could the larger forts represent a different phase of development, perhaps reflecting a more centralized and organized society? Or were they built by different groups with varying needs and resources? Furthermore, there is no definitive evidence to explain the sudden rise of these stone fortifications in Ireland during the Iron Age. The earliest known examples of these structures appear around 500 BC, but there are few clear indications of why they emerged at that time. Could they have been a response to changing political or environmental conditions? Were they a reaction to the influx of new groups into Ireland, such as the Celts? Or could they be the remnants of an earlier pre-Celtic civilization that has left little trace in the historical record? One particularly intriguing aspect of the Kerry stone forts is their alignment with certain natural features, such as rivers, mountains, and even the path of the sun. In some cases, the entrances of these forts appear to be oriented toward the sunrise or sunset at specific times of the year, suggesting that the builders may have had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Could the Kerry stone forts have served a dual purpose, not only as fortifications, but also as places of ritual significance? Perhaps the people who built these forts were not only concerned with defending their homes, but also with aligning their settlements to cosmic cycles, seeking harmony with the natural world. In addition to their defensive and possible ceremonial purposes, some researchers have raised the possibility that the Kerry stone forts served as symbols of power and prestige. Could these imposing structures have been constructed to project the wealth and influence of a particular tribe or leader? It is conceivable that, in a society where status was often defined by physical displays of strength and control, the construction of such grand fortifications was a way for elites to assert their dominance and ensure the loyalty of their followers. This theory is further supported by the presence of crannogs, or artificial islands, found in some parts of Ireland, which are thought to have been associated with similar Iron Age societies. These crannogs, often built on lakes or rivers, are believed to have been elite dwellings, offering both security and seclusion. Could the Kerry stone forts, with their imposing walls and elevated locations, have served a similar function, providing both protection and a symbol of social hierarchy? Despite these theories, much about the Kerry stone forts remains speculative. The lack of written records from the period means that we are left to piece together the story of these ancient people from the physical evidence they left behind. While the forts themselves provide clues about their builders' engineering skills and social structures, they offer little insight into the day-to-day lives of the people who lived within them. What were their rituals, beliefs, and practices? How did they interact with neighboring tribes, and what role did these forts play in their larger societal structures? The decline of the Kerry stone forts is also shrouded in mystery. By the time the Romans began to expand their influence across Europe, the stone fortifications in Ireland had largely fallen into disuse. Were the forts abandoned due to changing political dynamics, or did the arrival of new technologies and tactics render them obsolete? Some suggest that the collapse of the tribal structure in Ireland, driven by external pressures or internal conflicts, could have led to the disintegration of the fort-based society. Yet, no single explanation fully accounts for the disappearance of these fascinating structures. As we stand before the ruins of the Kerry stone forts today, we are left with a sense of wonder and curiosity about the people who built them. Who were they? What drove them to create these imposing stone structures? And what, if anything, do the forts tell us about the broader history of Ireland and its ancient inhabitants? The questions surrounding the Kerry stone forts are far from answered. Their purpose, their builders, and their eventual decline remain mysteries that continue to challenge archaeologists and historians. What we do know is that these ancient monuments, standing resolute in the Irish landscape, are not merely relics of a distant past. They are, in many ways, a reflection of humanity's enduring desire to protect and define itself through monumental acts of construction and engineering. And as we continue to unravel the mysteries of these ancient sites, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone, only waiting for us to uncover its secrets. As we venture deeper into the ancient mysteries of the world, we find ourselves in the remote, wind-swept hills of Dunnideer, a site tucked away in the northeastern corner of Scotland. Here, amidst the rolling moors and rocky landscapes, stands the Dunnideer Hillfort, an enigmatic monument that has stood the test of time, though much of its purpose and history remain a mystery. Even today, the fort's significance is the subject of debate, its true meaning hidden beneath layers of history, folklore, and speculation. Dunnideer Hillfort occupies a commanding position atop a hill, offering panoramic views of the surrounding landscape, which stretches for miles in every direction. From the summit, one can see the vast, sweeping valleys, craggy outcrops, and scattered patches of forest that characterize this remote region of Scotland. The hill fort itself is a fortification, its boundaries marked by the remnants of stone walls that curve in a circular pattern, enclosing an area of several acres. These walls, though weathered and eroded by centuries of wind and rain, still convey a sense of scale and purpose. The fort's strategic location, high above the surrounding terrain, suggests that it was designed for defense, a place where its inhabitants could both monitor the land and protect themselves from potential threats. But there is something more to Dunnideer Hillfort than its practical features. The very location of the fort atop a hill imbues it with an aura of mystery, as if it were deliberately chosen for its symbolic significance. Was the hill fort simply a military stronghold, or did it serve a deeper, more enigmatic purpose? Was it a place of power, a site where rituals were performed, or a symbol of control over the land? These are the questions that continue to intrigue archaeologists and historians. Dunnideer is believed to have been constructed during the Iron Age, likely around 500 BC to 500 AD. The fort itself, along with other nearby hill forts, forms part of a wider network of ancient settlements scattered across the Scottish landscape. The people who built these structures were likely part of a Celtic society, possibly descended from the Picts, an ancient group known for their distinctive culture, language, and art. The Picts were known to inhabit much of northern and eastern Scotland before the arrival of the Romans, and they left behind few written records, making their way of life difficult to fully understand. What we do know is that the hill forts, including Dunnideer, were likely centers of power for local communities. These fortified settlements would have served not only as defensive strongholds, but also as symbols of authority. The people who lived within the walls of Dunnideer Hillfort may have been tribal leaders, warriors, or skilled artisans. Inside the walls, there may have been huts or dwellings for the inhabitants, along with storage areas and workshops for crafting tools, weapons, and other necessities. The site also features stone platforms, thought to have been used for ceremonial or ritual purposes, further hinting at the possibility that the hill fort served not just as a place of defense, but as a center of social and spiritual life. However, as with many ancient sites, the purpose of Dunnideer Hillfort is far from straightforward. While its location and defensive walls suggest that it was primarily a fortification, there are indications that it may have had a symbolic or religious role as well. The stone platforms found within the fort are often interpreted as altars, or places where sacrifices may have been made. Could the hill fort have been a center for worship, with its elevated position making it a sacred space where the people could communicate with their gods or the spirits of their ancestors? Was this a site for rituals linked to the cycles of the seasons, or the worship of natural forces? The possibility that Dunnideer Hillfort held a spiritual function raises intriguing questions about the relationship between the people who built it and the landscape they inhabited. In addition to the stone platforms, other artifacts discovered at Dunnideer hint at the complexity of life within the fort. Pottery shards, tools, and fragments of jewelry have been unearthed, suggesting that the inhabitants engaged in daily activities such as cooking, crafting, and trading. The presence of these artifacts indicates that Dunnideer was more than just a military outpost. It was a thriving community with skilled individuals engaged in various aspects of life. Yet, the lack of human remains at the site complicates our understanding of how it was used and how long it was inhabited. The absence of burial sites, which are often found in other ancient settlements, leads some to speculate that Dunnideer may have served more as a temporary stronghold or refuge, perhaps used during times of conflict or unrest. But perhaps the greatest mystery of Dunnideer Hillfort lies in the lack of clear evidence about its inhabitants. The fort's construction style suggests that it was part of a broader tradition of Celtic or Pictish fortifications, but there are no definitive markers of who exactly lived here. Could it have been a site built by the Picts, the elusive people who once inhabited this region of Scotland? Or did it serve another, more mysterious group? Some archaeologists have even suggested that the fort might have been used by an earlier civilization, perhaps one that predated the Picts altogether. Could Dunnideer have been a place of refuge for a people who were displaced or defeated by a more dominant culture, their identity obscured by time? The lack of detailed historical records from this period leaves many questions unanswered. While it is clear that Dunnideer Hillfort was a place of strategic and social importance, the finer details of its role in ancient society remain open to interpretation. Was it built solely for defense, or was it also a center for trade, culture, or spirituality? Were the people who lived here simple tribespeople, or did they belong to a more complex societal structure? And what caused the eventual abandonment of Dunnideer? Did the inhabitants leave due to external pressures, such as invasions, Or did they gradually abandon the site in favor of other settlements? The answers to these questions are lost to history, leaving Dunnideer Hillfort to stand as a silent testament to a long-forgotten past. As we look at the remains of Dunnideer Hillfort, the questions continue to haunt us. The walls, still standing after centuries of weathering, offer little more than silent clues. The stone platforms may have once supported rituals that honored forces beyond human understanding, but now they are just echoes of a time gone by. The artifacts recovered from the site, while offering glimpses into the daily lives of its inhabitants, still leave us wondering who those people were and what their lives were like. The mystery of Dunnideer Hillfort persists, its purpose and significance hidden in the folds of history, inviting us to look deeper, to seek the hidden truths that may still be lying beneath the surface of this ancient and enigmatic site. Could there be more waiting to be discovered in the hills of Dunnideer? What secrets do these stones still hold? The mystery remains, and the search for answers continues, as the Hillfort watches silently over the Scottish landscape, guarding its secrets with the quiet resolve of ages past. As we move deeper into the remote and rugged landscapes of the Orkney Islands, off the northern coast of Scotland, we encounter a structure that has long intrigued historians and archaeologists alike. The Broch of Clickimin stands isolated on a small island near the shores of Lerwick, its formidable stone walls rising from the waters like a silent sentinel to an ancient past. This towering broch, part of a group of such structures scattered across the northernmost reaches of Scotland, remains a testament to a forgotten people who left few written records, but whose legacy endures through these monumental ruins. The Broch of Clickimin, like others of its kind, is a round, multi-storied structure, an impressive feat of engineering made from carefully stacked stones. At its peak, it likely stood several stories tall, with an interior designed for both living and defense. Today, much of the broch is partially restored, its walls now standing at around 15 feet high, but it is still a shadow of its former grandeur. The structure is surrounded by a series of defensive ditches and a stone wall, which further suggest its role as both a stronghold and a place of refuge. The broch's position, rising from the waters of Clickimin Loch, not only provides strategic visibility over the surrounding land, but also raises the possibility that it had a defensive function, controlling access to the land by water and by land. This architectural marvel belongs to a class of structures known as brochs, which are found primarily in the Orkney and Shetland Islands, dating from the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BC and 100 AD. These brochs, constructed with remarkable skill, are a unique feature of the prehistoric Scottish landscape, and their purpose remains a topic of intense debate among scholars. Was the broch a fortified residence, a symbol of power, or perhaps a communal center? And more intriguingly, who were the people who built these enigmatic towers, and why did they disappear? Mainstream explanations tend to focus on the broch as a defensive structure, a place for elites to live and protect themselves from raiders or rival tribes. The thick, double-walled construction of Clickimin, with its narrow internal staircase and small fortified windows, supports this theory. It is easy to imagine the broch as a stronghold, its upper levels offering panoramic views of the surrounding landscape, while the lower levels provided secure living spaces. Evidence of food storage and tools found within brochs suggests that they were not just military installations, but functional dwellings, perhaps occupied by a small community or family unit. However, there is much about the Broch of Clickimin, and brochs in general, that defies easy explanation. For instance, many brochs appear to have been deliberately placed in isolated locations, far from any major settlement or agricultural area. Why would a society build such elaborate and expensive structures, only to locate them in such remote places? Could there have been another reason for their construction, something beyond mere defense? Were these brochs places of ritual significance, designed to communicate a message of power, wealth, or divine favor to the surrounding population? The layout of Clickimin itself offers some intriguing hints. While it clearly served a domestic purpose, with evidence of hearths and storage bins, it also contains features that suggest a broader symbolic role. The central chamber, with its raised stone benches and platform, could have been a focal point for communal activities or religious ceremonies. Were the brochs, in fact, places of ritual gathering, where powerful leaders or shamans performed sacred rites to honor the gods or spirits of the land? Could the seemingly defensive, isolated position of Clickimin be a deliberate strategy to elevate its spiritual and political significance? Adding to the mystery of the Broch of Clickimin are the questions surrounding its abandonment. Unlike many other Iron Age settlements, which evolved into more permanent agricultural societies, the Broch appears to have been largely abandoned by around the 1st century AD, a period of significant change in northern Britain. Some scholars suggest that the Brochs may have fallen out of favor due to changing economic or political circumstances, perhaps due to the rise of more centralized forms of power or the introduction of new building techniques. But could there be another, less conventional explanation? Was there a cultural shift or an event, perhaps a climate change or a conflict, that led to the sudden abandonment of the Broch settlements? There is also the question of the Broch's construction technique. The precision with which the stones were cut and arranged in the Broch of Clickimin suggests a high level of engineering expertise, but there is no definitive evidence explaining how the ancient builders achieved such precision. How did the builders manage to stack massive stones weighing several tons without the use of mortar? And how did they create the staircases and interior chambers without leaving behind significant tools or technology? Was there an unknown technique used by these ancient people, one that we have yet to fully understand? Some have even speculated about the possibility of lost knowledge, a forgotten engineering tradition that disappeared over time, only to leave behind these enigmatic ruins as the only clues to a once advanced society. Another fascinating aspect of the Broch of Clickimin is the possibility of an astronomical connection. Some researchers have suggested that the Broch's orientation and the layout of its walls might align with the solstices or other celestial events, hinting that its builders may have had a sophisticated understanding of the movement of the sun and stars. Could the Broch have been used as an observatory or a place for tracking the passage of time and seasons? Was the Broch more than just a defensive structure or a residence? It may have served as a symbol of cosmic alignment, a structure designed to mirror the natural order of the universe. As with many ancient sites, the line between practical function and ritual significance is often blurred. As we stand before the remnants of the Broch of Clickimin, we are confronted by a structure that defies easy categorization. Was it simply a fortified residence for an ancient elite? Or was it something far more intricate, a ceremonial center, a hub of political power, or a spiritual landmark? The evidence is sparse, and much of the Broch's purpose remains shrouded in mystery. Yet the sheer scale and complexity of the structure speak volumes about the ingenuity of the people who built it, and their ability to manipulate stone with a precision that continues to astonish us today. Could the Broch of Clickimin be more than just a relic of an Iron Age society? Might it represent a lost chapter in the history of northern Britain, one that we are only just beginning to understand? As with so many ancient sites, the answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, leaving us to wonder what secrets still lie hidden beneath the stones of this ancient fortress. The mystery of the Broch is far from solved, and its legacy, one of resilience, ingenuity, and mystery, continues to intrigue and inspire us, offering a glimpse into a world that has long since passed, but whose echoes still resonate across the landscape. As the sun sets over the island of Minorca, its fading light casts long shadows across the landscape, where ancient stones stand in solemn silence. Among the most enigmatic of these stones is the Naveta des Tudons, an imposing and mysterious structure located in the heart of Menorca's rugged countryside. This prehistoric tomb, with its distinctive boat-shaped design, has stood for over 2 millennia, weathering the passage of time and the relentless winds that sweep across the island. Yet, despite its long history, the purpose of the Naveta des Tudons remains one of the most enduring puzzles in archaeology. The Naveta, which derives its name from the Catalan word for ship, is a funerary monument dating back to the late Bronze Age, around 1000 BC. Its shape, a pointed boat-like structure made entirely of stone, immediately catches the eye. The roof, which originally would have been covered with large, flat stones, now lies partially collapsed, revealing a structure that appears to mirror the shape of a nave or boat hull. The tomb is built from massive stones, intricately placed without the use of mortar, a technique that speaks to the skill and knowledge of the builders. The Naveta des Tudons stands as a testament to the ingenuity of the island's early inhabitants. Yet, it is the tomb's purpose and the circumstances surrounding its construction that have captivated historians and archaeologists for centuries. While it is generally accepted that the Naveta served as a burial site, the specifics of its function remain elusive. Was it a tomb for a prominent individual or a collective burial site for a community? The lack of clear inscriptions or written records leaves us with only the structure itself, which invites as many questions as it answers. The Naveta's location, isolated in the rural expanse of Menorca, also adds to its mystery. Positioned on a slight hill with views over the surrounding land, the tomb might have been deliberately placed to provide a strategic vantage point, overlooking both the natural landscape and potential routes of entry. But what was the significance of this position? Was the location meant to symbolize the deceased's connection to the land, to nature, or to the heavens? Some have speculated that the alignment of the tomb, though not immediately obvious, might hold some cosmic or astronomical significance, potentially aligned with solar events or the celestial cycles. There is also the matter of the burials found within the tomb. Archaeological excavations have uncovered numerous human remains, suggesting that the Naveta was indeed used as a collective tomb. These remains, however, reveal a complex and puzzling burial practice. The bodies found within the tomb were often interred in a crouched position, and some were accompanied by pottery and tools, suggesting that these items were meant to serve the deceased in the afterlife. While this ritualistic burial practice is consistent with other prehistoric tombs in the region, the identity of the individuals buried in the Naveta des Tudons remains a mystery. Were they members of a powerful clan, or was this a community tomb for the island's early inhabitants? The absence of clear distinctions between the burials makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. As with many ancient monuments, the question of who built the Naveta des Tudons and why remains central to our understanding of the site. Some scholars believe that the tomb was constructed by the Talaiotic culture, a civilization known for building large stone structures known as taulas and talaiotes, megalithic towers that dot the islands of Menorca, Majorca, and Ibiza. This culture, which thrived from the Bronze Age through the Iron Age, left behind a remarkable architectural legacy, yet little is known about their social structure, beliefs, or customs. What drove them to build such elaborate and enduring monuments? Were these tombs created for spiritual or ritual purposes, or were they symbols of political power? The Naveta des Tudons itself hints at a society with a deep understanding of the afterlife and spiritual matters. The deliberate shaping of the tomb, with its boat-like form, may symbolize a journey or passage, perhaps one to the afterlife. In many cultures, boats have been used as metaphors for crossing into the unknown, and the idea of a boat carrying the deceased to a spiritual realm is an ancient motif found in many parts of the world. Could the boat-shaped tomb represent a symbolic vessel for the soul, meant to transport the dead to an afterlife or a place of eternal rest? Some scholars believe that the tomb's shape may have been meant to evoke the image of a boat traveling across the sea, a journey that could represent the soul's voyage after death. But what is most intriguing about the Naveta des Tudons is the apparent ritualistic nature of its construction and use. The tomb's structure and its connection to the surrounding landscape suggest that it may have been part of a larger religious or ceremonial complex. The stones, meticulously placed in a precise configuration, may have been designed not just for structural integrity, but for symbolic meaning, perhaps intended to represent the sky, the earth, or some other cosmic principle. Was this tomb a space for the living to communicate with the dead, or was it a site for rituals that honored ancestors or deities? The lack of written records and the fragmentary nature of the archaeological evidence leaves us to speculate on the deeper, more spiritual meaning behind the tomb's design. Equally puzzling is the disappearance of the Taliatic culture. By the Roman period, the Taliatic civilization had largely faded from the historical record. What caused the end of such a complex society, one capable of constructing monumental stone structures? Did the people of Minorca abandon their tombs and fortresses due to a natural disaster, such as an earthquake, or was there a societal collapse brought about by political or economic factors? The reasons behind the decline of the Taliatic culture remain unclear, and the mystery of why the Naveta des Tudons was abandoned only adds to the intrigue. Was the tomb, which had once been a site of great significance, gradually forgotten as the people of Minorca moved on to other ways of life? Despite the unanswered questions surrounding its construction and use, the Naveta des Tudons remains a profound testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the people who built it. The precise nature of the rituals conducted there, the identities of those interred, and the reasons behind the tomb's eventual abandonment are mysteries that remain unsolved, inviting us to continue probing the past for hidden truths. The Naveta stands as a silent witness to a lost world, its stone walls echoing with questions that history has yet to answer. What secrets, buried in the quiet stone, still await discovery? And what does the legacy of the Taliatic culture have to teach us about the ancient peoples of the Mediterranean? As we leave the shores of Minorca and the shadow of the Naveta des Tudons behind, we are reminded that some mysteries are not meant to be fully understood. Perhaps the answers to these questions lie beyond our reach, lost in time, carried away by the winds of history. Yet, as long as the tomb stands, it will continue to whisper its secrets to those willing to listen, its boat-shaped form pointing toward a past we have yet to fully comprehend. The sun rises slowly over the Jordan Valley, casting a soft golden light over the land that has seen thousands of years of history unfold. Here, nestled between the hills of northern Jordan, lies one of the most significant yet mysterious archaeological sites in the ancient world, Ain Ghazal. Its name, which means Spring of the Gazelles, evokes a sense of tranquility, yet the secrets buried beneath the earth tell a far more complex and enigmatic story. Ain Ghazal was once a thriving Neolithic settlement, believed to have been inhabited from around 7,250 BC to 5,000 BC. In its prime, it was one of the largest and most sophisticated communities of its time, housing a population that engaged in advanced farming, building, and crafting. Today, the site consists of a series of mud brick houses, ancient walls, and paved streets, all of which provide a glimpse into the lives of the people who lived here. But it is not just the architecture that makes Ain Ghazal so captivating. Beneath the surface lies a collection of remarkable finds, artifacts that raise far more questions than they answer. One of the most extraordinary discoveries made at Ain Ghazal is the presence of life-sized statues. Scattered across the site, these figures stand as silent sentinels to an ancient people whose beliefs and practices we can only begin to understand. The statues, made from a mixture of plaster, lime, and bitumen, depict human figures, some with distinct facial features and elaborate headdresses, while others show less conventional forms, with large, exaggerated eyes or unorthodox body proportions. These figures, numbering around 15 in total, are among the most early monumental sculptures ever discovered, predating similar finds from Mesopotamia by several centuries. The style and purpose of these statues remain subjects of intense debate. Archaeologists have speculated that they may have had some form of ritualistic or religious significance. The exaggerated eyes and facial features could suggest a spiritual or supernatural connection, perhaps tied to ancestor worship, fertility rites, or the honoring of deities. But what is particularly perplexing about these statues is their striking realism, a realism not typically seen in Neolithic art. Were these figures created to represent specific individuals, or were they symbolic representations of gods or spirits? And why, unlike other cultures of the time, did the people of Ain Ghazal choose to craft such large and detailed human representations? Adding to the mystery of the statues are the ritual deposits found alongside them. In several of the burials, archaeologists uncovered human bones mixed with animal remains and jewelry, suggesting that these rituals may have been intended to honor the dead or to commune with spiritual forces. The presence of these grave goods further supports the idea that the statues may have been part of religious ceremonies, perhaps offerings to ensure prosperity, health, or protection for the living. But the absence of direct written records leaves us with only speculation, and no definitive explanation can account for the precise nature of the rituals conducted at Ain Ghazal. What sets Ain Ghazal apart from other Neolithic sites is not just the scale or sophistication of its architecture and art, but the unusual burial practices that have also been uncovered. Unlike other contemporary cultures that buried their dead in simple graves, the people of Ain Ghazal practiced secondary burial. The bodies of the deceased were first exposed to the elements in a process known as excarnation, a practice that was likely meant to facilitate the return of the spirit to the earth. After this, the bones were collected and placed in stone tombs or within the settlement itself, often with significant funerary offerings. These secondary burials, combined with the ritualistic use of the statues, suggest a society with complex spiritual beliefs, possibly centered around life, death, and rebirth. Some researchers have speculated that the Ain Ghazal people were among the first to practice collective burial, with entire families or communities interred together, reflecting the importance of community in their cultural identity. This contrasts sharply with the more individualistic burial practices of other cultures of the period, and it raises questions about the social structure of Ain Ghazal. Was this a society that revered ancestral lineage, and were the statues part of a larger ritual system designed to connect the living with their ancestors? Or were they an attempt to communicate with otherworldly beings, perhaps for protection or favor? Despite the wealth of archaeological finds, there are still many unanswered questions surrounding Ain Ghazal. What led the Neolithic inhabitants of Ain Ghazal to create these striking life-sized figures in the first place? Could they have been part of a larger cultural shift, an early attempt to create an organized religion or form of governance? Some theories suggest that the shift to farming, which occurred around this time, may have altered the relationship between the people of Ain Ghazal and their environment, leading them to seek divine protection or favor. With the rise of agriculture, the community would have faced new challenges, such as the management of resources, protection from external threats, and the need to ensure fertility in their crops and livestock. Could the statues have been a way of asking for divine assistance in these new, more complex times? There is also the question of the decline of the Ain Ghazal settlement. By around 5000 BC, the site appears to have been abandoned, and the reasons for its sudden decline remain unclear. Was it due to environmental factors, such as drought or soil depletion, that made farming increasingly difficult? Or did the community experience a social collapse, perhaps due to conflict or internal strife? The absence of clear evidence makes it difficult to pinpoint what led to the fall of this once thriving settlement. Could there have been an external influence, such as an invasion, migration, or trade disruption, that precipitated the collapse? The end of Ain Ghazal is as mysterious as its beginning, and its abandonment only deepens the enigma surrounding this ancient site. Furthermore, there is the intriguing question of whether the practices and beliefs of the Ain Ghazal people influenced other cultures. Could these early religious practices and monumental sculptures have spread to other parts of the ancient world? Some have suggested that the figures and burial practices of Ain Ghazal might have influenced later cultures in the Levant, or even in Mesopotamia, though direct evidence of such influence remains scarce. The similarity between the monumental statues of Ain Ghazal and later Mesopotamian art suggests a shared understanding of symbolism and the human form, but how this influence might have traveled remains an open question. Today, the site of Ain Ghazal lies quietly under the desert sky, its stone foundations and statues still telling their story, one that remains incomplete. The statues, their eyes wide and haunting, continue to stand as a reminder of a people who left behind more questions than answers. What were they trying to tell us? What beliefs or rituals drove them to create such remarkable figures and to practice such unique burial customs? And why, after flourishing for centuries, did this society vanish without a trace? The mystery of Ain Ghazal endures, its ancient stones still holding secrets that we may never fully understand. As we stand on the threshold of discovery, we can only wonder, what might still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to shed light on the lost world of the Ain Ghazal people? Nestled on the sun-drenched island of Malta, the Skorba Temples stand as silent witnesses to a past that continues to evade our full understanding. Located in the northern part of the island, near the small village of Magar, these ancient stone structures are part of a group of prehistoric temples that span a remarkable time frame, dating back to at least 3,600 BC. It is a period long before the rise of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the more widely known civilizations that dominate the pages of history. Yet, what makes Skorba, and indeed all the prehistoric temples of Malta, so fascinating is not only their age, but the sheer mystery surrounding their creators and purpose. At first glance, the Skorba Temples appear to be a simple, humble ruin. The site consists of two main temples, constructed from massive limestone blocks, arranged in a semicircular design that suggests some form of ceremonial or religious activity. The temples themselves are remarkably well preserved, standing amid fields of wildflowers and gentle Mediterranean breezes. The smooth, weathered stones, shaped with painstaking precision, give little hint of the extraordinary rituals they once witnessed or the ancient belief systems that might have been practiced here. But as we delve deeper into the history of the Skorba Temples, a different picture begins to emerge, one of complexity, mystery, and unanswered questions. These temples are part of the Maltese megalithic complex, a collection of structures scattered across the islands of Malta and Gozo, all of which are older than the famous pyramids of Giza in Egypt. The oldest of these temples, including those at Skorba, were built long before the Egyptians began their monumental architectural feats, yet their creators seemed to possess an advanced understanding of construction, astronomy, and perhaps even the sacred geometry that governed the design of their sacred spaces. The layout of the Skorba temples is simple, yet striking. The main structure is composed of a central nave, flanked by two smaller chambers, all of which were originally covered with a roof of large stone slabs. These stone walls are massive and show evidence of having been carefully shaped and positioned with remarkable precision. The absence of mortar suggests that the builders used interlocking stones, fitting them together so tightly that even millennia later, the structure still holds together. Inside the temple, archaeologists have found evidence of ritual activity: altar stones, engraved symbols, and traces of animal bones, hinting at the possibility that these were places of sacrifice or worship. Yet, despite the material evidence, the true purpose of these temples remains elusive. Were they used for religious rituals, or did they serve as something else entirely, perhaps as community gathering spaces? The presence of the altar stones, which are often associated with offerings, suggests that these temples may have been centers of spiritual significance. But who were the deities or forces that these early islanders worshipped, and why were these temples built with such care and dedication? What makes the Skorba temples even more fascinating is that their discovery revealed some unusual features that suggest the people who built them had a sophisticated knowledge of astronomy. At certain points during the year, sunlight would enter the temple at specific angles, casting beams of light that seemed to align perfectly with the altar stones or other ceremonial markers. Could these solar alignments indicate that the people of Malta were tracking celestial events, such as the solstices or equinoxes, which were of profound importance to their religious practices? If so, this would suggest that the builders of Skorba, as well as the other megalithic temples across the islands, possessed an understanding of the cosmos that was far ahead of their time. But the mystery deepens when we consider the builders themselves. Who were the people behind the construction of these incredible temples? The prehistoric inhabitants of Malta left no written records, and much of what we know about their culture comes from the archaeological remains found at these sites. While we can infer some aspects of their lives based on their sophisticated architecture and the artifacts they left behind, there are still many unanswered questions about their origins and the development of their society. One intriguing aspect of the Skorba temples is their relationship to the nearby Hagar Chim and Menajra temples, two of the most famous megalithic sites on the island. These structures, also aligned with the solar movements, are thought to have been built by the same culture that created the Skorba temples. But did they all belong to a single society, or were these temples constructed by different groups over time, each building upon the knowledge and traditions of their predecessors? This raises questions about the continuity and evolution of the Maltese megalithic culture and whether the temples were part of a larger religious or societal movement. Even more mysterious is the eventual abandonment of these temples. Archaeologists have yet to determine exactly why the Skorba temples were no longer used after the Bronze Age. Was it due to environmental changes, such as a shift in climate or a diminishment of resources on the island? Or was there some cultural or social upheaval that led to the temple's disuse? Could the rise of a new belief system or a shift in political power have caused the people of Malta to abandon their ancient rituals and sacred spaces? As we ponder these questions, it is important to consider the role of the temple's alignment and their potential connection to other ancient cultures. It is widely known that early civilizations across the Mediterranean, from the Phoenicians to the Egyptians, placed great significance on the movement of the stars and the sun. Could there have been some form of cultural exchange between these distant peoples, sharing knowledge of astronomy, architecture, and religious practices? Were the builders of the Skorba temples connected to the wider Mediterranean world in ways that we have yet to fully understand? Some scholars have even suggested that the temples of Malta might have served as predecessors to later religious structures in the Mediterranean, including the famous Greek temples and Roman sanctuaries. But this idea raises more questions than answers. If the Maltese temples were indeed precursors to later developments in the region, why did this particular style of megalithic architecture fade into obscurity, only to be revived much later by other cultures? And what happened to the people of Malta themselves? Did they eventually become part of larger empires, or did their society simply disappear? Perhaps one of the most perplexing aspects of the Skorba temples is the complete lack of written records or detailed historical accounts about their builders. The absence of written language is a feature common to many of the ancient civilizations that left behind monumental architecture, yet it makes understanding their motivations, beliefs, and societal structures incredibly difficult. Was the lack of written records due to a cultural preference for oral tradition, or did these people simply never develop the ability to write? Despite these challenges, the Skorba Temples continue to offer profound insights into the lives of the early Maltese inhabitants and the mystery of their beliefs. The alignment with the sun, the intricately shaped stones, and the enigmatic figures of the altar stones all point to a people with an advanced understanding of the world around them, an understanding that transcended mere survival and reached into the spiritual realm. As we stand before these ancient structures, the air heavy with the scent of wild herbs and the soft hum of the Mediterranean breeze, we are left with the haunting question of what these people truly believed. The Skorba Temples, with their massive stones and precise alignments, stand as a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the enduring quest for meaning. But just what that meaning was, and how it might have shaped the people who built these remarkable structures, remains a mystery. The Skorba Temples, like so many other ancient sites, still hold secrets that may never fully be revealed. And as we look to the past, we are left with one final, lingering thought. What remains hidden in the stones of Skorba, waiting to be uncovered? Situated on the windswept hills of County Wicklow, Ireland, the Rathgall stone fort stands as a silent sentinel to a time long past, an enigmatic relic of ancient Ireland's Iron Age. Overlooking the expansive Wicklow Mountains, this ancient hill fort commands a striking position, offering sweeping views of the surrounding valleys and hills, as if guarding the landscape from the centuries that have passed since it was first constructed. The fort itself is a remarkable sight, a circular, multi-walled structure made of massive stones, its walls still towering despite the wear of time. Built sometime around 500 BC, Rathgall was once a powerful stronghold, possibly a center for tribal leadership or even a religious site. Today, its crumbling walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, form an eerie yet captivating silhouette against the horizon. The site's isolation, nestled atop a hill, far from modern settlements, only adds to its mystique, sparking curiosity about the people who built it, the purpose it served, and the stories it has quietly kept to itself. Walking around Rathgall is like stepping back in time. The massive stone fortifications seem almost too deliberate to be the work of mere humans. The outer ramparts stretch over 200 meters in diameter, and the structure is made up of multiple concentric rings, each with its own distinct purpose: defensive, ritualistic, or perhaps both. Within these walls, evidence of a settlement once thrived. But what is it that the ancient builders of Rathgall were trying to protect, or perhaps even conceal, within the fort's stone embrace? The location itself is important. Rathgall sits atop a hill that would have been a strategic point during the Iron Age, offering control over the surrounding terrain and visibility over any would-be invaders or rivals. But while its military function seems obvious, its fortifications are solid and designed to withstand siege, there is another question that looms large over the site. Why such an intricate design? Why create multiple walls, complex entranceways, and inner chambers? The effort and resources required to build such a fort suggest it was more than just a military bastion. It could have been a place of political power, ritual significance, or even sacred meaning. Inside the fort, archaeologists have uncovered signs of habitation: stone foundations, kilns, and circular buildings, suggesting that it was once a bustling settlement. However, what is most fascinating is the lack of a clear indication of the fort's abandonment. Evidence from the site shows no signs of violent destruction or major shifts in population. The fort simply seems to have been abandoned over time, its purpose fading into history. This brings us to one of the most tantalizing questions surrounding Rathgall. What caused this significant site to be left behind? Did the people who once inhabited it move away, leaving it to crumble under the weight of time? Or was there a sudden shift, some unknown event, that caused the fort to lose its significance? The answers remain shrouded in mystery. The construction of Rathgall itself raises questions about the technological sophistication of the people who built it. The stones used in the fort's walls are massive, some weighing several tons. They were carefully cut and placed, with remarkable precision. How did the Iron Age builders manage to transport and arrange these massive stones, some of which would have been too large for the average person to move without modern machinery? There are no records that tell us the specific methods they used, so we are left to wonder, did the builders of Rathgall have knowledge of advanced engineering techniques, or was there something more behind the construction of such an intricate structure? The layout of Rathgall suggests a ritualistic purpose beyond mere defense. The design of the entrances and inner chambers appears to follow a pattern that could have held symbolic significance. Some scholars have speculated that the fort may have been a place of ceremonial importance, perhaps associated with ancient gods or rituals. The complexity of the stonework might indicate that the builders were not merely focused on protection, but also on creating a sacred space, a place where spiritual practices and earthly power were intertwined. Was Rathgall a religious center, a meeting place for worship, or even a gathering site for tribal leaders? One of the most intriguing aspects of Rathgall's history is its connection to the broader Celtic world. The Celts, who dominated much of Europe during the Iron Age, built numerous hill forts, but Rathgall's construction is distinctive. While similar forts can be found across Ireland and Britain, the size and complexity of Rathgall suggest it may have had special significance. Some theories propose that Rathgall could have been a tribal capital, a political center where leaders gathered to make decisions that affected the surrounding regions. If Rathgall was indeed a center of power, its eventual abandonment might signal the collapse of a once thriving political entity, perhaps due to conflict, migration, or shifting power dynamics within the Celtic tribes. In addition to the general historical theories, some fringe ideas have emerged to explain Rathgall's purpose. One of the more speculative ideas suggests that the fort may have been designed for astrological purposes, aligning with specific celestial events, such as solstices or equinoxes. The placement of entrances and the spatial arrangement within the fort might have been symbolic of a connection between the physical world and the heavens. Could Rathgall have been a ritualistic observatory, a place where celestial events were linked to spiritual beliefs? This notion adds another layer of complexity to the already mysterious nature of the site. Despite the fascinating theories and speculations surrounding Rathgall, one question remains central. Who were the people who built this remarkable structure? The builders of Rathgall left no written records, and their identity remains unknown. Were they part of a larger Celtic tribe, or was Rathgall built by a distinct group whose influence was localized to this part of Ireland? Some archaeologists suggest that Rathgall was part of a larger network of fortifications, designed to defend against other tribes or foreign invaders, while others believe it was a symbolic representation of power, a statement to both the local population and surrounding peoples. Equally puzzling is the absence of evidence for what happened to the people who lived in the fort. Unlike other sites that have left behind signs of violent conquest or abandonment due to external forces, Rathgall's story appears to fade into quiet obscurity. There are no major signs of destruction or sudden collapse, just an emptying of the site over time. Could the people of Rathgall have migrated to other areas, leaving the fort behind as a testament to their way of life? Or did internal struggles and social changes lead to the disintegration of the community? These questions remain unanswered. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of Rathgall is its permanence. Unlike many other ancient sites that were abandoned or destroyed over time, Rathgall stands as a testament to the ingenuity and mystery of its creators. The stones, still upright despite the ravages of time, seem to whisper stories of a lost era, an era of power, ritual, and belief, whose remnants we can barely comprehend. As we stand before Rathgall today, its massive stones silently guarding the landscape, we are left to wonder what secrets the fort still holds. Who were the people who built it? Why did they choose this particular hill as the site of such a monumental structure? And why did they leave it behind? The mysteries of Rathgall Stone Fort are far from resolved. But perhaps it is the unanswered questions that make it so compelling. A reminder that even in the modern world, there are still places where the past remains hidden, waiting to reveal its truths to those who are willing to seek them. For now, Rathgall stands as a reminder of the vast and enigmatic history that still surrounds us. It remains a silent sentinel, watching over the hills of Wicklow, holding its secrets close, and daring us to uncover what lies beneath its weathered stones. What did it once mean to the people who built it? And what truths might still be waiting to be discovered? Only time will tell. On the island of Tongatapu, in the Kingdom of Tonga, one of the most awe-inspiring and mysterious stone structures of the ancient world stands, a towering monumental formation known as the Ha'amonga, a Maui Trilithon. Rising majestically against the backdrop of lush green landscapes and blue skies, the Trilithon consists of 3 massive coral limestone slabs, each one weighing several tons. The central pillar stands nearly 6 meters tall, flanked by 2 other stones that form the famous archway, its shape strikingly similar to that of other megalithic structures seen around the world. As you approach the site, the immense scale of the Trilithon becomes immediately apparent. The stones, rough, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, seem almost out of place, like a set of ancient giants frozen in time. The way they stand in such a deliberate, linear formation, pointing skyward, suggests a purpose far beyond mere decoration. Their alignment, too, appears precise, as though it had been carefully planned. The Ha'amonga, a Maui Trilithon, is not just an architectural feature. It is a symbol of something deeper, something greater, something we are only beginning to understand. While the purpose of the Ha'amonga, a Maui, is a subject of debate among archaeologists and historians, its very existence poses a series of intriguing questions. Built during the ancient Tongan civilization, possibly as far back as the 12th century A.D., the Trilithon stands at the entrance to a traditional royal complex. The site's grandiose nature suggests that it served as more than a mere entryway to the palace or ceremonial grounds. Was it intended as a monument to power, a sacred gateway to the divine, or perhaps a symbolic marker of some celestial event? The name itself, Ha'amonga, a Maui, meaning the burden of Maui, adds to the sense of mystery surrounding the structure. The story of Maui, a hero and demigod in Polynesian mythology, is a central figure across many Pacific cultures. Legend says that Maui, in his quest to gain power over the forces of nature, moved mountains and performed feats of strength that no human could ever hope to match. The Trilithon is said to have been built by Maui himself as a gift to his father. Could this myth, passed down through generations, be a symbolic representation of Maui's strength and divine influence? Or is the story tied to a more grounded historical event, perhaps a great king or chief who claimed Maui as an ancestor, thereby linking their own power to the mythical past? There is evidence that suggests the Ha'amonga, a Maui Trilithon, may have been part of an ancient observational complex. The alignment of the structure could correspond with specific celestial events, such as the solstices. Ancient Polynesians were skilled navigators, their knowledge of the stars and the heavens unparalleled in their time. Could the Trilithon have been used as a marker for astronomical events? Was it designed as a kind of solar calendar, where the rising sun aligned perfectly with the opening of the arch at key times of the year? Some researchers have pointed to the possibility that the structure may have been part of a broader system of astronomical observation, a tool for tracking the movements of the stars, the sun, and the moon. The accuracy of this potential alignment raises further questions. How did the people of Tonga, without the advanced tools of modern astronomy, possess such an intricate knowledge of the heavens? Did they have methods or instruments that are now lost to history? Beyond the function as a symbolic gateway or astronomical marker, another theory suggests that Ha'amanga, a Maui, may have served as a kind of territorial marker, signaling the boundaries of sacred or royal land. Given the hierarchical nature of Polynesian society at the time, this interpretation seems plausible. The tri-pillared structure could have acted as a symbol of the divine authority of the ruling family, signaling to all who approached that they were entering a domain imbued with sacred power. Was this a place where only the worthy could enter? Or was it a means of maintaining control over both land and people? As for the construction of the Ha'amanga a Maui, the precision with which the stones were arranged raises even more questions. The structure is made up of coral limestone, a material not naturally found in the immediate area, but likely transported from quarries farther inland, or even from different parts of the island. The sheer weight and size of the stones involved suggest that this was no small undertaking. How were the ancient builders able to transport and maneuver such heavy, immovable rocks? Could the Polynesians have had tools or techniques we have yet to fully understand? Or is there something about their knowledge and craftsmanship that modern researchers are only just beginning to grasp? Some fringe theories take these questions even further. Speculations abound that the construction of Ha'amanga a Maui was not merely the work of local Tongan people, but perhaps an effort of some lost civilization, or even ancient visitors from other parts of the world. Theories of extraterrestrial influence have surfaced in some circles, with the sheer scale of the Trilithon and its mysterious alignment sparking imaginations. While these theories have no concrete evidence behind them, they reflect the powerful intrigue that the structure continues to generate. Could the knowledge and abilities needed to construct such an impressive structure have come from a source outside the Pacific Islands? At the same time, there are those who believe the Ha'amanga a Maui may have been more than just a monument. What if it was a ritualistic object? Some have proposed that the Trilithon could have been part of a larger system of spiritual significance, tied to Polynesian concepts of the afterlife, divine rule, or the cyclical nature of life. The idea that such a structure may have been used in religious ceremonies or to invoke the favor of the gods brings a new layer of mystery. Was Ha'amanga a Maui built to honor the gods, or was it a portal through which the divine realm could be accessed? Was the great Maui, whether a god, a hero, or an ancestor, actually believed to pass through this gateway in some form of ritual act? Despite the intriguing theories and ongoing exploration, many mysteries surrounding Ha'amanga a Maui remain unsolved. Its origins, purpose, and methods of construction are still subjects of intense scholarly debate. As the years pass, the stone Trilithon stands weathered but resolute, a silent reminder of the ancient Tongan civilization that once inhabited these shores. The legends surrounding it only deepen its aura of mystery, and the questions it raises are far from resolved. Even as modern archaeologists continue to study the site and its surroundings, the Ha'amanga a Maui Trilithon resists easy answers. Was it built as a tribute to the legendary Maui, as the name suggests? Was it an astronomical tool, a ritual site, or a territorial marker? Or was it something altogether different, perhaps a combination of all these functions? In the end, the Ha'amanga a Maui stands as a testament to the ingenuity, mystery, and profound connection to the land and cosmos that characterized ancient Polynesian culture. Its silent presence invites us to look beyond the surface, to consider the larger questions of human ingenuity, mythology, and the pursuit of knowledge that transcends the ages. As we contemplate its purpose, we are reminded that some of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries may never be fully understood. The truth of the Ha'amanga a Maui might be lost to time, but it still calls out to us, urging us to wonder, what truths lie hidden beneath its weathered stones, waiting to be revealed? As we move from one mysterious corner of the ancient world to another, we find ourselves in the rugged heart of Spain, where one of the most intriguing archaeological sites in Europe awaits. Nestled in the Mancha Oriental region of the Iberian Peninsula, near the small village of Almadén, lies the Motilla del Azuer, a prehistoric settlement that continues to captivate historians, archaeologists, and curious minds alike. This site is a striking blend of ancient ingenuity, mystery, and an enigma that has eluded complete understanding for centuries. The Motilla del Azuer is no ordinary archaeological site. It's a fortified settlement, but not just any fortress. Its high mound, rising about 10 meters above the surrounding plains, appears like a sentinel watching over the vast, arid landscape. The site is enclosed by large defensive walls, and within this elevated settlement lies a series of interconnected chambers and structures. What's immediately striking is not just the scale of the site, but the precision with which it was constructed, especially when considering the period in which it was built. Estimates place the origins of Motilla del Azuer around the 2nd millennium BC, suggesting that its creators were among the early Bronze Age civilizations that began to flourish in the Iberian Peninsula long before the rise of more well-known cultures. The mound, which gives the settlement its name, Motilla, meaning small hill in Spanish, hides beneath it a complex network of underground chambers, passages, and storage areas. These subterranean spaces, combined with the defensive walls and towering entrance, suggest that the people who lived here were both strategic and resourceful, well aware of the need to defend themselves from the challenges of their time. But what challenges exactly did they face? The walls and structures point to an understanding of warfare, but also of trade, agriculture, and perhaps even ritual. Yet what we don't know is as compelling as what we do. The mystery of Motilla del Azuer lies not only in its purpose, but in its abandoned nature. Why was this remarkable settlement built in such a remote location? What drove these early inhabitants to create such an elaborate system of defense and organization? Was it built for a specific tribe or community, or did it serve as a regional center of power? Some scholars suggest it may have acted as a fortress, offering protection to those seeking refuge from invading forces, but others speculate that it could have had a ceremonial purpose, serving as a sacred site where rituals were conducted in order to maintain a delicate balance between the human world and the gods. There is also the possibility that this location was the epicenter of an early agricultural revolution, where new farming techniques were developed to meet the demands of a growing population. One of the most fascinating elements of the Motilla del Azuer is its unusual construction technique. The settlement's walls were built using large stone blocks, stones that had to be transported from nearby sources. The defensive walls surrounding the settlement are not just for protection, but they also show evidence of having been constructed in layers, with each layer seemingly designed to reinforce the structure. And yet, the most puzzling aspect of these walls is the way in which they were splayed at the base, almost as though they were designed to mimic the form of a pyramid. What could this mean? Could the builders have been influenced by other ancient cultures known for their use of pyramidal shapes, or was this a form of local innovation? Some have pointed to the Minoan or Egyptian influences, but direct evidence of such connections remains scant. Another enigma lies within the central structure of Motilla del Azuer. As with many ancient sites, there are signs of a large central building, possibly a palace or temple. But unlike other archaeological sites, Motilla del Azuer seems to have had no known written language, making the interpretation of its purpose even more elusive. Megalithic stones, scattered around the site, indicate that there may have been some form of ritual significance, although what these stones were used for remains a mystery. Were they markers for astronomical observations? Could they have been part of religious ceremonies performed by the community? Did they symbolize the power of the people who built this settlement? There is a growing theory that these stones could have been used in some sort of agricultural ritual aimed at ensuring bountiful harvests or invoking favorable weather patterns. Without written records, however, all we are left with are our imaginations, trying to bridge the gap between what we can see and what was once believed. In addition to the central structure, the underground spaces are another element that has left scholars scratching their heads. These subterranean chambers, which extend beneath the mound, were likely used for storage, but the manner in which they were built suggests a greater sophistication. The walls of the chambers are often lined with carefully arranged stones, and the openings into the underground spaces are deliberately designed to be small and difficult to access. These features raise a question. Could these chambers have been used for something other than simple storage? Were they perhaps used as shelters during times of conflict, or as sacred spaces for initiation rites or ancestor worship? If so, what purpose did the stones lining the walls serve? Were they intended to imbue the space with spiritual significance, or were they a form of safety and security, protecting what was most precious to the people living there? As for the question of the people who built the Motilla del Azuer, scholars agree that they were likely part of a Bronze Age civilization known as the Iberian culture. But the deeper mystery lies in the fact that little is known about these people's connections to other cultures. The lack of written records and the scarcity of identifiable artifacts leaves us with only the physical remains of their settlements. Were they isolated from the rest of the Mediterranean world, or were they part of a greater trade network that spanned from the coast of Palestine to the northern reaches of Europe? The possibility of such connections looms large, particularly in light of evidence suggesting that other cultures, such as the Phoenicians, were active in the region. Did the people of Motilla del Azuer interact with these foreign traders, or were they cut off from the rest of the Mediterranean world, developing their culture in relative isolation? Despite these various theories and tantalizing glimpses into the past, much about the Motilla del Azuer remains a mystery. The settlement is only partially excavated, and much of it remains hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. There is still much to learn about the people who once inhabited this strange and powerful site. What we know for certain is that the Motilla del Azuer represents an extraordinary achievement of early human civilization, an enduring testament to the creativity, resourcefulness, and resilience of the people who built it. Whether it was a fortress, a temple, or something entirely different, the story of this site is still unfolding. In the quiet expanse of the Mancha Oriental, the Motilla del Azuer stands as a monument to a people whose lives and culture remain shrouded in mystery. As we look at the towering stones, the subterranean chambers, and the quiet, forgotten walls, we are reminded that the ancient world is not so easily understood. The mysteries of Motilla del Azuer still call out to us, inviting us to ask, what did these people believe? What drove them to build such a remarkable site, and why did they leave it behind? The answers, like the stones themselves, may be buried beneath layers of time, but the quest to uncover them continues. As we move deeper into the enigmatic landscapes of ancient archaeology, we now arrive in the Cornwall region of southwest England, where the Men-an-Tol lesser stones stand, a site that has fascinated historians and archaeologists for centuries. Situated on the windswept moors, surrounded by sweeping vistas of rugged terrain, these stones are part of a larger archaeological complex that remains cloaked in mystery. Though relatively small in scale compared to other stone monuments, their position and strange configuration have given rise to a wealth of theories, many of which challenge our understanding of ancient rituals, beliefs, and the people who shaped them. The Men-an-Tol lesser stones are a group of upright stones set in a curious formation near the well-known Men-an-Tol site, famous for its hold stone. This iconic stone, which forms the centerpiece of the site, is a large stone with a perfectly round hole in the middle. But it's not just the hole that draws attention. It's the way in which the smaller stones surrounding it align with the landscape, creating a subtle yet deliberate focal point. These lesser stones are smaller, but no less intriguing. They stand silently on the periphery, their positions suggestive of a purpose we can barely begin to understand. The Men-an-Tol site itself is believed to date back to the Bronze Age, around 2000 to 1500 BC, and has been linked to rituals of healing, astronomical observations, and ceremonial significance. The large stone with the central hole is often interpreted as a symbolic gateway or a portal, leading some to speculate that it may have been used in fertility rites or initiation ceremonies. But the lesser stones surrounding it have often been overlooked, despite their strange alignment and the sense of deliberate placement that pervades the entire site. Could they be markers for something else? Perhaps something that has yet to be fully understood? Each stone in the arrangement is positioned with care, and the placement does not appear random. Some scholars suggest that these stones may have been aligned to mark specific points in the celestial sphere, correlating with particular stars or constellations at key moments of the year, like the solstices or equinoxes. Ancient cultures often built such structures for astronomical purposes, and the lesser stones could very well be part of a broader megalithic calendar, used to track the passage of time and guide the agricultural cycles of early farming communities. However, the mystery deepens when we consider the local folklore and the mystical associations attached to these stones. Over the centuries, the Men-an-Tol site, including its lesser stones, has been imbued with a rich array of legends and myths. In some local traditions, the hole in the central stone is said to possess healing properties, with people attempting to pass through it in search of cures for illnesses, especially back problems. Could these lesser stones, placed at the periphery, be part of a ritual pathway? Were they markers that guided people on a symbolic journey through the landscape, leading them toward healing or spiritual transformation? Some more fringe theories propose that the arrangement of the stones could be related to an ancient form of mapping. It's been suggested that the positioning of the lesser stones, in connection with other megalithic sites in the area, may form part of an ancient network of markers, a prehistoric form of navigation used to chart the landscape. These connections, if true, would suggest that the people who created the Men-an-Tol site had an advanced understanding of their environment, perhaps even greater than we give them credit for. Could these stones have functioned as part of a larger, interconnected system that we are still yet to uncover? A spiritual landscape as much as a physical one, guiding not just travelers, but the souls of the living on a metaphysical journey? Another possibility, though speculative, ties the site to early religious practices. The Men-an-Tol and its surrounding stones could represent a form of ritualized worship directed at nature, the sun, or other celestial bodies. The lesser stones, perhaps placed at the cardinal points around the site, could be seen as sacred markers, symbols of connection to the divine or to ancestral spirits. The very idea of stones as sacred objects is a recurring theme in ancient societies, and the lesser stones may have served as physical representations of spiritual boundaries, like the gates to a larger, sacred world. It's important to consider that, in the Bronze Age, people were in the process of developing systems of beliefs and rituals that were intimately tied to the cycles of nature. Yet, the Men-an-Tol lesser stones may not just represent an astronomical or religious framework. There is also the question of their social significance. The precise arrangement of the stones could reflect the social structures of the time, marking places of importance or potentially signifying hierarchical relationships within the community. If these stones were used in ritual contexts, as many believe, who would have been responsible for carrying out these ceremonies? Were these rites reserved for a specific class or group, perhaps a priestly caste or a ruling elite, or were they communal in nature, inviting participation from all members of society? What were the spiritual beliefs that gave rise to such practices, and how did they impact the lives of the people who worshipped here? While much of the focus on Men-an-Tol revolves around the hole in the central stone and its symbolic meaning, the surrounding stones, especially the lesser stones, remind us that this site is far more than just one mysterious feature. Each stone in the arrangement, though smaller, plays an integral role in the larger structure. Their positioning could offer clues to the rituals and beliefs of the people who lived here. But the purpose of these stones remains elusive, as does the true significance of the site as a whole. As we stand before the Men-an-Tol lesser stones, looking at these silent sentinels standing stoically in the landscape, we can't help but wonder, what was their true purpose? Were they merely markers, or did they carry a much deeper meaning, one that eludes our modern understanding? Could they have been part of a larger, interconnected system of ancient belief, designed to connect the physical world to the divine? Or was this site more about the practical needs of the people who built it, a way to align their daily lives with the rhythms of nature? The truth may lie somewhere between the tangible and the metaphysical, and perhaps therein lies the most intriguing mystery of all. Though the Men-an-Tol lesser stones are not as famous as their more iconic counterparts, their very presence, positioned as they are in the windswept Cornish landscape, serves as a reminder that we may never fully understand the ancient minds that shaped these monuments. As the stones endure, we are left to ask, what other secrets do they hold beneath their weathered surfaces, waiting to be discovered by those patient enough to listen? The mystery of Men-an-Tol and its lesser stones remains unsolved, lingering on the edge of history. After traveling through time and space, we now arrive in the rugged landscapes of Romania, where the ancient ruins of Sarmizegetusa Regia stand as an enigmatic testament to the power and mysteries of the Dacian civilization. Nestled deep in the Orăștia Mountains, this ancient capital of the Dacians remains one of the most significant archaeological sites in Eastern Europe, and one of the most perplexing. The ruins themselves, once the heart of a thriving civilization, are spread across several terraces in the misty mountain range. From the moment you approach Sarmizegetusa Regia, there's an undeniable sense of awe. The site is perched on an imposing plateau, surrounded by dense forests and mist-covered hills, giving it an almost ethereal quality. Some might say the landscape itself seems to harbor secrets that have long evaded the understanding of modern scholars. The remnants of its fortifications and sacred structures still stand, but their true purpose is shrouded in mystery. The Dacians, an ancient people whose kingdom once spanned the heart of what is now Romania and parts of neighboring regions, constructed this fortress-like capital in the 1st century BC. Known for their fierce resistance against Roman conquest, particularly under the rule of King Decebalus, the Dacians were eventually defeated in 106 AD by the Roman Emperor Trajan. Though their kingdom fell, Sarmizegetusa Regia remains an enduring symbol of their rich history and enigmatic culture. Upon first encountering the ruins, the most striking feature is the sheer scale of the fortress. The walls are massive, constructed from large stones, and the defensive system is remarkably sophisticated for its time. But it's not just the fortifications that draw attention. The site is composed of various temples, ritualistic altars, and sacred precincts, all of which hint at a deeply spiritual and complex society. It's as if this place was not merely a military stronghold, but a center of religious power and astronomical knowledge. Among the most intriguing features of Sarmizegetusa Regia are the circular and rectangular sanctuaries that dot the landscape. One of the most prominent is the Dacian Temple, a circular structure believed to have been used for rituals and sacrifices. This temple, along with others at the site, suggests that the Dacians placed immense importance on the worship of the sun, moon, and various deities tied to the natural world. Could this site have been used as an astronomical observatory, as some theories suggest? The placement of the stone structures, aligned with certain celestial bodies, hints at a profound understanding of astronomy and cosmology. But the questions only deepen when we consider the ritualistic altars found within the site. These altars are not simply functional. They appear to have been constructed with specific astronomical events in mind. Some scholars suggest that the Dacians may have used these altars for the observation of solstices and equinoxes, aligning their sacred ceremonies with the cycles of the sun. The precision with which these structures were constructed points to a people who were not only adept at warfare, but also deeply attuned to the natural world. Was this an early form of astrological practice, or did the Dacians hold knowledge of celestial events that was lost to time? However, the mysteries surrounding Sarmizegetusa Regia are not limited to its religious and astronomical significance. One of the most captivating elements of the site is its military fortifications. The walls that encircle the site are fortified by massive, imposing stone structures that seem to defy conventional construction techniques for the era. Some of the stones are so perfectly shaped and interlocked that it's difficult to imagine how they were cut and transported without modern tools. Could the Dacians have had access to advanced construction techniques or knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations? Was there something more sophisticated about their methods than we currently understand? Moreover, the very location of Sarmizegetusa Regia, high in the mountains and surrounded by dense forests, raises further questions. The site's positioning provides natural defenses, but it also points to a ritual significance. The Dacians were known for their spiritual beliefs tied to the earth and the heavens, and it's possible that this mountaintop fortress was considered a sacred location, chosen for its proximity to the divine. In many ancient cultures, high places were often seen as conduits between the earth and the gods, a place where the mundane and the supernatural intersected. Was Sarmizegetusa Regia not only a capital city, but also a sacred center for the Dacian people, a place where they connected with the cosmos and the divine? Then, of course, there are the mysterious artifacts discovered at the site. Some of the items uncovered during excavations include pottery, tools, and weaponry, but there are also more enigmatic finds, objects whose exact purpose remains unknown. Among these are carved stones and inscriptions whose meanings have yet to be deciphered. These markings, often found within the sacred areas of the site, suggest that the Dacians may have had a form of writing, something not previously attributed to them in historical records. Could these inscriptions contain messages or records of a knowledge system lost to time? Are they fragments of a Dacian written language waiting to be understood? One of the most fascinating and controversial theories revolves around the idea that Sarmizegetusa Regia may have been the site of a lost civilization's knowledge, a civilization that predated the Dacians and perhaps influenced them. Some fringe theories suggest that the Dacians were not the first to build on this site, but rather inherited the location from an even older and more advanced culture. Could there have been a precursor civilization, possibly with astronomical or mystical knowledge, that was absorbed by the Dacians? This theory, while speculative, invites us to consider the possibility that Sarmizegetusa Regia is more than just a testament to Dacian culture. It could be a remnant of something much older, a civilization whose history was erased by time and conquest. The Roman conquest of the Dacians in 106 AD only added another layer of mystery to the site. As the Romans defeated the Dacians, they systematically destroyed much of what remained of Sarmizegetusa Regia, leaving behind the ruins we see today. The Romans were known for their engineering prowess, yet the remnants they left behind suggest that Sarmizegetusa Regia was not simply a military target. It was a cultural jewel, a symbol of the Dacian kingdom's strength, spirituality, and resistance. Could the Romans have been after more than just military dominance? Might they have sought to obliterate a site that held ancient secrets, knowledge, or spiritual power? Today, Sarmizegetusa Regia remains a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but many of its questions remain unresolved. The Dacian civilization, with its rich cultural and spiritual legacy, stands at the edge of historical memory, waiting to be rediscovered. What knowledge did the Dacians possess? What secrets are hidden in the mountain mist? As we study the stones and walls of Sarmizegetusa Regia, it's impossible not to feel that there is something more, something just beyond our grasp. The truth may be locked away, buried beneath layers of time, waiting for a moment when the world is ready to uncover it. The ruins of Sarmizegetusa Regia are more than just remnants of a lost kingdom. They are a riddle that we have yet to solve. What was the true significance of this place? Was it a military stronghold, a sacred site, or something else entirely? As we continue to explore the depths of history, the mysteries of Sarmizegetusa Regia linger, teasing us with their unfathomable complexity. And perhaps, in the future, we will finally uncover what the Dacians left behind, revealing the secrets of a civilization lost to time. Until then, the site stands in quiet defiance, its stones whispering tales that we are only beginning to understand.